the Litchfield Square CFD and getting, I guess, getting rid of it. So the first meeting is called to order. If you would join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, Mr. Vice Mayor Faith is going to lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. And we have a full crowd, and I assume they're all here for appropriations, and unfortunately, we're doing you second.
No, they're all there to tell us what a good job we're doing.
Well, if you want to break in and say what a good job the council's doing, we will listen to you for a second. So, but we do have a very long agenda, so we're going to get started and try to get through it. First item is approval of minutes. Looks like I'm looking at the right now. That's correct. So, Ms. Roth, you have something to say about them other than just asking us to approve them? No.
Just asking you to approve.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? June 18th, 2025 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are adopted. Next item of business is adoption of resolution LS 26-2 or -15, dissolution of Litchfield Square CFD.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Williams. It's already been moved to approve, but we're going to skip it just long enough to see if you have anything you want to say.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor and Council, this resolution would dissolve the Litchfield Square CFD if you choose to do so. Just as a reminder, the CFD was created for Litchfield Square some years ago. However, the CFD never issued a bond of its own and has no debt. So there is no financial impact as far as directly to the CFD goes, because eventually that would have happened, but it did not because we were making this change. We do recommend passage of this resolution.
All right, it's been moved to adopt resolution LS 26-15. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we do not need an executive session, so special meeting is adjourned. Now we can come to the work study session, which we listen to you guys about appropriations, which is second on our list of items tonight. We'll call the work study to order. Item of business is to consider appropriation applications. Just so that you all know, many of you have been here for many years and done this over and over, so you all know the process. But in case there's new people, the way that we do this is we listen and ask questions. We have a full packet of information that was provided by each of your organizations when they applied for a grant. So we have all that background data already. Many of us have listened to you and questioned you over many years, so we're pretty familiar with your organizations. Some of our new council members may not be. So the general process that we use tonight is we will have you make presentations, and I know the city manager, you wanted to make a preliminary statement. Do you want to do that before I finish? Or okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor and Council, I understand that some of you have some questions you would like to ask the nonprofits confidentially, and we can certainly do that. After we go through the various questions tonight, if you would like to email me the questions that you may have, we'll be happy to put them in a list together and we'll send them to the nonprofits, and we will provide you a copy of those answers. Again, if there's anything you would like to answer confidentially, staff can certainly handle that.
So you're going to have to explain that statement again. Do you want to ask questions tonight, or you want to have them give the questions to you to be asked in the future? But
if there's questions council members would like to answer confidentially, sir, please send them to me via email.
Confidential questions.
Correct, sir. And then we will send the nonprofits and I will get answers and send them back to you.
All right, and they're confidential from who?
They're confidential questions certain council members would like to ask of the nonprofits, sir.
Okay, I'm just not clear. That Joe understands what they are, that there's something that's not part of the public record. That's what I'm concerned about.
I don't have the questions yet, sir, but I understand there's some questions they would like to ask privately, not in open meetings, sir.
All right. So if council has something that you believe that you want to ask that you think is confidential, you're welcome to get those questions to the city manager. Before we treat them as confidential, we're going to run them by the city attorney to make sure that we're not violating open meeting laws, because we're conducting these appropriations in an open meeting law environment. where questions really should be done in open meeting unless there's something that justifies its being confidential. But we can see if you have confidential questions, get them into to the city manager. We'll have Joe take a look at them and see if it's appropriate to keep them confidential. Either way, we can ask of the applicants, but we may have to communicate that with all the applicants, not just with just one or more. And it will have to be, if they're not confidential for the council, all of the council needs to know what you're asking and what the answers are. So, okay,
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you. I have a question. What are our goals and our parameters? When we first got into this, we were giving money to organizations that really had no labor expenses, and most of our money was going actually out into the community and being used for nonprofit purposes. We had requirements that we get tax returns so we could see, what the entities look like. And some of these don't fit into that, and this is kind of morphed, it seems like, over the years. And so we were also had a requirement that we were given to benefits to organizations that were benefiting our citizens. And we've always had problems in trying to figure out what our citizens are, because the 85340 area code includes, we're an extremely small part of the 85340 area code. So the numbers we were getting on the citizens benefited didn't make sense. And some of the applicants, they've got budgets bigger than ours and more payroll than we've got. I think maybe they ought to be donating to us. So I'm kind of wondering, do we have a policy or some kind of parameters here, or it's just whatever feels good at the time, stick a number with it, off we go?
Well, Mr. Vice Mayor, the limits are altogether is $25,000 across the board. However, council wants to divide that. I would agree with you on the question of zip code. For the audience, what he's speaking to with that is their zip code is 85340. There's 36,000 people in our zip code. However, the city of Litchfield Park is about 7,000 people. And there's a lot of residents that commonly think that they live in the city of Litchfield Park and they don't. For example, you can live on Jackrabbit and have a Litchfield Park zip code, but you don't actually live in the city of Litchfield Park. Okay, so that's a common issue we deal with daily. So I would suspect that is true in some of the applications as well, sir.
And my other question is, I think we've always seen the Avondale Senior Center on here.
That's part of our, it's a part of our regular budget.
We've moved it out of here into our regular budget. Okay.
To an IGA, sir.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you.
To answer your question, I don't know of a very detailed policy that we have in terms of this process. We have always required there to be that the nonprofit has to touch people in Litchfield Park, because the gifting clause, where if we're going to be giving out money, then we need it to be going to the benefit of our residents. So we've always required some nexus with our residents themselves. That in most cases that's been possible. In some cases we've had difficulty with that. That's about the only thing I think we've had that's been a kind of a touchstone for the entire time that I've been mayor. Is that the nonprofit needs to benefit residents from Litchfield. Certainly there's always been issues with how large some are compared to others. Maybe that's a relevant thing for you to think about in terms of the way that you divide the money up. But even some of the ones that are very large are performing tasks and services which benefit our residents, and at least they deserve us to give them consideration. So as we go through the process, you can certainly ask more questions about those and see what kind of answers you get. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So each council member, just so you know our process, each council member has a sheet like this that has a spot for each councilman to put in an allocation of the 25,000 or some amount less than 25,000 to be given to all of the applicants. And so we have numbers from everybody, and we generally run averages. We try to get a consensus, if you will, of what amount does each council, what's a consensus of council want to give each group, limited to the amount that we budgeted, which is 25,000. So it goes through this whole process. When we get all done with you, we'll put all this in down as a vote. It will give it to the city clerk and the city manager. They come back then at the next meeting and they give us their recommendation based on this vote for the actual awards. So there won't be awards tonight, normally it's the next meeting, correct? Yeah. So there won't be awards tonight, but the council will be filling the sheet out sometime in the next, week or so. And then we'll be getting that award information ready for our next regular meeting. Okay. Any questions from the applicants generally about what we're going to do? No. So again, we all have information in our packets that is all the information you gave us before. So because of that, and because of the fact that many of you are here for a second or third or fourth or a 10th year, we know your organizations. A lot of us know your organizations, not everyone. So you may or may not have a significant number of questions, and you shouldn't take that as being someone that we like you or we don't like you. It just means that we know you enough that we may not have a question. Okay. So with that, we will get started. Because we do know you, there are 13 presentations, and we have an agenda that generally tonight that will take us till 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, maybe later. If you don't have something real significant, you don't need to take 5 minutes to tell us what you've already told us in your application. Because 5 minutes times 13 people, that's 65 minutes plus walking up and down. I mean, you can see we could spend an hour and a half just listening to what information we already have. So it is not a bad thing if you are brief with your presentation. If we have questions, we can ask you. Okay. But with that, we'll start. We're going to take them out of order because we have one individual who needs to be able to do it out of order because she's got other pressing obligations. And that is the Southwest Lending Closet, who is represented by Meredith Stuckey. Would you like to come up to the mic? Floor is yours.
Well, I think our package will speak for itself. We're all volunteers, and last year they gave out 8,000 items for free. And our goal for next year is to start looking into the process of hiring an executive director. Anna's been with us for 10 years, volunteer. She's done a yeoman's job.
And I think everybody here who knows the Lending Closet knows that they serve many of our residents, with equipment that would otherwise they would have to purchase, and we appreciate all of them, really all that you do for our residents. So thank you. I don't know. Is there any other questions for the council? No. Okay. Thank you for your presentation. Until your next meeting. All right, now we're going to go back to the regular order, which the first entity is Agua Fria Food and Clothing Bank. Jeremiah Smith.
My name is Jeremiah. I'm here because Leanne's been sick this week. I don't think there's anything outside of the packet to add. If you have any questions, I'll try my best to answer them.
Questions for Agua Fria? Okay, thank you for all you do for our community. As you can see, it's a really high-stress evening.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
On Agua Fria? I volunteered there once a week over the summer, and I saw the need that the community has for the food bank services. And I even saw people from our community there, and it was very meaningful to be working there and to be able to support them in that way. So I just wanted to share that thing.
Yeah, great organization. Okay, next item, our next group is Arizona Community Impact, Rusty Hood.
Hello, I'm Rusty with Arizona Community Impact. Not sure, we're a nonprofit. We partner with a lot of entities to make things happen. We've been in the West Valley for 5 years as our nonprofit now. Prior to that, we were part of Palm Valley Church in that organization. We partner with Toys and More, which is a project that we do that goes throughout all these areas. I think if we look at our looked at our numbers, we're like 36 families in Litchfield that are a part of that. Those numbers kind of keep stepping up just a little bit, the need in the community. So we provide those Christmas gifts and stuff. We work together with y'all for your food banks, even in that. We're also the bed building hub for Sleep in Heavenly Peace for the West Valley. So we actually build the beds at our warehouse and we do the delivery. So I think we're about 12 children that we've delivered to in Litchfield Park in the last year. And like you said, those kind of just keep going up as the need increases. I think that was all in our packet.
Okay, any questions from the council? Do we have councilman on Zoom? So that,
Member Claire, yes.
all right. Yes, Lisa and Ron are on Zoom.
Just Councilmember Claire, I believe. I don't think Lisa's.
All right, well, anybody on Zoom, if council on Zoom, if you have a question, speak up. All right, so we'll go on to the next group, which is Blue Star Moms of the Southwest Valley.
Mayor, members of the council, my name is Nancy Love, and I'm honored to be before you tonight to speak to you just very briefly about our nonprofit organization, which is a service organization. It's made up pretty exclusively of moms who have children, either who have served or are currently serving in the United States military. We provide many services to the city of Litchfield Park. We're in attendance at flag raisings, parades. We participate in your July 4th and Memorial Day events. We maintain the Memorial Garden. And some of our requests for this coming year is we would like to purchase flagpole heroes, flagpole banners for your light poles, honoring heroes here in Litchfield Park, as well as some funds to upkeep the Memorial Gardens, as well as to contribute to Honor Flight, which is an organization that provides flights to memorial events for veterans here in Litchfield Park. So I will keep it short, but as a mom who is, my son is currently serving in the Air Force and, deployed in the Middle East right now. I appreciate your time and your consideration of our request.
Thank you.
For any questions.
Any questions from council? Okay, thank you very much. Catitude Arts. Sandy Reagan.
Mayor Schill, Vice Mayor Faith, council members and staff. I'm Sandy Reagan, 40-year resident of the city of Litchfield Park. I have with me our project director, Lisette Cervantes, and I'm executive director of Catitude Arts. Thank you for letting us present tonight. We've been here many, many times. We're really excited about what's happening with arts and culture in the city of Litchfield Park at this time. And we have a rather short proposal and want to expand what our agency is doing here to enhance the arts in Litchfield Park. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Questions from council? Thank you for all you do. We appreciate seeing you every year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is Encircle Families. Angelica Laura, correct?
Yes, it's Angelica Lara.
I'm sorry?
Angelica Lara.
Angelica, I'm sorry.
Yes, no worries. So my name is Angelica Lara. I went with Encircle Families. I've had the opportunity of working here for 12 years, and I too am also a resident of Litchfield Park. Our organization helps support and train families that have children with any kinds of delays, challenges, or disabilities between the ages of 0 and 26. And sometimes even over, because sometimes we have families that move into the valley or the state and their child is in their 40s. Ultimately, we don't turn away anyone because when you move into a new state, you have a child with a disability, it's very overwhelming. So we help with any kind of navigation as well as training offered in English and in Spanish. And I'm open to any questions you may have.
Questions from council?
All right, fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is Homeless Youth Connection. Over.
Good evening, Mayor, council people. council members, council people, council persons. My name's Dawn Bogart. I'm co-CEO of Homeless Youth Connection. And yes, I've been here for a very long time. If you want to count, and I was telling Lisa, I've been here since I was 9 years old, but that's a different story. Homeless Youth Connection provides resources to youth who are experiencing homelessness so they can stay in school and complete their education. In Arizona, we're covering 130 high schools, including the district of Agua Fria, which includes Millennium. Right now, the Southwest Valley makes up a quarter of our population, which is, we're serving over 700 kids. In the West Valley, it's 135. And here in Millennium, it was, I just looked at the numbers before I came tonight, it's 9, which is more than we've had in the past. Several of those kids are unaccompanied youth, meaning we're actually providing housing for them as well as basic needs and case management services. We really try and make sure that each individual district can raise part of the funds for their own youth, and then we go in and pay for the rest of the funds. So you guys have been really helpful in really paying for the kids that are going to Millennium. Any questions?
Questions? Thank you for what you do for our community. We appreciate it. Next group is the elementary schools, Litchfield Elementary PTSA. This is Sydney.
No, I am actually Kristen Biss. Hi.
Oh, all right. My she's from.
Hi. Yes. No, it's okay. She couldn't make it. So I am representing the Litchfield Park PTSA. Just want to say you guys are doing an amazing job. Thank you so much. I'm here for the fall carnival. We have about 3,000 attendees every year, and we have sponsors, events. The school performs. And it's just an amazing event for the community. So we're here hoping that it can continue on another year.
Okay. Questions?
And I have small children, so I'm gonna leave. Not that I don't love you all. So
Could you see that this goes somehow to our calendar so we know when the carnival is at that time?
Yes, sir, we certainly can.
Yeah.
yes, we have the date usually by August when we know. So we'll let you guys know.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you. Next group is One Step Beyond Inc. Jacqueline Arnberg.
Hi, I'm Jackie Amberg. I came 2 years ago, and then one of my team members came last year. And if you aren't familiar with us, we are opened a new campus in 2024, right at the corner of I-10 and the 101. But it serves the Southwest Valley because we saw a huge gap in services for adults with disabilities that have aged out of high school, but now are not ready to move into the workforce or not ready to move into college. So One Step's set up very much like a community college, in case you don't know about One Step. And they actually get to choose what they do, like a community college, every quarter. And last year, it was identified that they really wanted to start doing media arts. So we started a media arts class because we had a staff member, but she was using her own home cameras to do like small news segments and that type of thing. But we'd really like to have something that we have on our own docket for our own inventory, for her not to have to use her own property to teach that class to the students. We have 90, I think now, enrolled here in this campus. I know that 9 of them are in this zip code, but I'm not sure how many of those are actual Litchfield residents because I have not pulled that actual number. To your point about the budget, yes, we are very large budget, but it covers rent and utilities, transportation, and salaries. And if we didn't have support from outside community, these people would be sitting in classrooms 8 hours a day doing basically paperwork and watching a TV because they wouldn't have a quality of life if we didn't have the extras that we provide and we raise money for. So that's what we're looking for help with.
Okay.
Is this like a day program?
Yeah, it is a day program, yes. But yeah, as I said, it's set up like a community college more than just the same set people in the classroom together all day, every day. They go and do different things. They go out and volunteer in the community. They do outings to go bowling, everything in between. And as well, they have a full culinary classes, and they have a gardening. That's what you guys supported last year. And they have a computer lab so they can build their resumes, because some of them do actually graduate from our program and get jobs out there once they've gotten comfortable out of the high school setting that they were in.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jackie. We appreciate it.
Okay, wonderful. Headed to kids sports.
Okay, Joy.
Thanks.
Next is the Heritage Center. We have Lisa Haggerty. Yeah, because we're not here.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Lisa Haggerty with the PW Litchfield Heritage Center. I think most of you know who we are. We are a museum, but we do offer a lot of programs. And so we have lots of opportunities for people to connect with our history and their heritage. So we have family and children's programs once a month, our Discovery Days, hands-on opportunities to learn about history. We have our Heritage Lecture Series every other month. We draw a bunch of different speakers from all over the place, of very interesting topics, and draws very solid attendance at those events, along with our Las Posadas, our signature cultural event every year that really highlights our local history and culture, and puts a spotlight on the historic St. Thomas Aquinas Mission Church. We have our Wigwam Talks on selected Fridays, and we have our history walking tours. We started a book club with, regional literature that circulates between fiction and nonfiction. So we have just a big variety, and we try to connect with all segments of the community and get them interested in our heritage and our history.
Good summary.
You
Questions?
have something big that you're planning for this fall, right?
Oh, yes, yes. So this fall, we are planning a large fundraiser at the historic Flight. It's now Flight's hangar, but it was formerly Goodyear Aircraft's hangar. And it's a joint fundraiser with West Valley Arts Council. And so it'll be an immersive World War II event where there'll be music and dance of the area. People will be encouraged to dress in period dress, and lots of entertainment. So we're in the process of planning that right now. So we're very excited.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions?
Full disclosure, I'm on the boards.
Oh, okay.
I just throw that in.
So we're going to find out if you can vote.
Oh.
Must be a conflict here somewhere.
Right.
Thank you very much. Next item is Sounds of Autism. Group is the Sounds of Autism. Cricket.
Hi, how are you? I know you got all this in your packets, but I think three things I'd like to highlight. The first one is our program serves what I call the most underserved within the autism population. They do not qualify either for Social Security, DDD services, or both. So because of the grants that we receive from our cities, we can keep our programs complimentary. We do not charge for that. We were asked by Agua Fria High School District this year, once the Hilltop School is ready, that will be our second home. We will be doing free trainings throughout the year, monthly, weekly, it just depends on the month. But we'll be doing that with them as a partner. So we'll be serving all of the individuals that live within your cities some way, somehow. And it'll be our leaders who have autism. I have 3 leaders that live in the city of Litchfield Park that work with us that will be conducting a lot of this training. The last is Betty Lynch became one of our ambassadors a few months ago, and she is going to be helping us. We've been working with La Loma, and we're working with our senior populations and integrating our individuals with autism, and they're working side by side, especially those with starting stages of dementia. And we have all kinds of different things that we're doing to help with those phases as they're going through it, and that community collaboration. So I just want to make sure you saw that in the information that I put in there.
Thank you. Questions? Thank you for all you do for our community.
You got it. Thank you.
Next group is a new applicant, Southwest Valley iHelp.
You're not new.
Hi, my name is Jeremiah. This is Michelle. She's the program manager for iHelp. You want me to talk?
You go. I'll go.
All right. If you're not familiar with the iHelp program, because it's a new applicant, it's existed for 10 years in the Southwest Valley. A little bit of a change in the last year though. So what the program is churches who volunteer to work together to shelter overnight anybody that's unhoused, that's living on the street, including St. Peter's, one of the 6 churches. How many churches? 5 churches right now. So you have churches in Goodyear, churches in Avondale, churches in Litchfield Park, who then kind of rotate, take turns opening up their building each night and then providing a safe place. With that lodging comes dinner and breakfast, and then also case management, which is also what Michelle does, including employment services, housing, everything. I love this program. I love it so much. I live just south of here on the Goodyear side of the road. But this program means a lot to me as a resident out here. We don't have a shelter. I don't imagine that we're ever going to have a shelter. I don't know that we ever need a shelter, but we do need services like this, especially a safe place for people to sleep every night in case management. And so as a solution that makes sense to me for where we live, I think that iHelp is a really, really great model.
And I can kind of jump into that. For the 10 years, I had the privilege to work for another organization that was actually running the iHelp program. Once it lost its funding, we came together. I volunteered, the churches came together that were still involved, which is one of them is St. Peter's. We have St. Peter's, which is in Litchfield, Old Litchfield Park Road, but then we have 3 churches that are in Goodyear and 1 in Avondale. But we're trying to service everyone. Just in the short time of us relaunching on February 2nd of this year, we have served 18 people. 9 of them were able to locate permanent housing. 2 of them were actually reunited with their family. So without the services that were provided, a lot of people are experiencing homelessness, and homelessness does not look like what we normally see on the streets. Homelessness looks like somebody who's working for the U.S. Postal Service. It's looking like the person who delivers our packages from Amazon. We've had school teachers in our program. So with all the support that we could get, we are helping individuals who don't have to go into a sobriety program. They're just needing a safe place to lodge, because we don't call it shelter, we call it lodging, because that's what we're doing. We're lodging you for 90 days so that you can get back on your feet, find something that is applicable to your budget, and close this chapter of their life and moving forward. Any questions?
Thank you. Questions?
I did have one question. I think on your website, you mentioned iHelp. And so I was wondering like how that works. If grants are given to you, do you pass them as part of it? You pass it through to, how does that work?
Okay, so up until last year, Lutheran Social Services ran this program. They ran it with federal funds. Those funds were discontinued. They dropped the program. These groups of churches got together and said, we want to keep doing this. We don't know how. Rusty and AZ Community Impact stepped up to serve as fiscal sponsor, which means that the group of churches didn't have to form a new nonprofit, form a new board, go through all of that. They keep operating the program as they did. Rusty provides his EIN as a fiscal sponsor. So the donations go through that EIN, but there's a separate bank account, there's separate accounting, there's separate advisory council, everything is separate as if they were their own C3, just without the need for that additional level of, I don't want to call it bureaucracy, but non-program work.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Thank you. We appreciate what you're doing for our community. All right, next is the Valley of the Sun YMCA. That's the last one.
Hi, my name is Blake Sikafus, and I'm actually the new executive director of the Southwest Valley YMCA, which is just down the road on Litchfield and Thomas. And our proposal is pretty clear, but I want to make sure that you know it was written for the Valley of the Sun YMCA, which is our overarching association name. But the funds will actually go directly to the Southwest Valley YMCA, which serves Litchfield Park families. So the ask is for money to support scholarships for childcare at least 10 Litchfield Park families.
Okay.
And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
All right, Thank you very much.
Appreciate you.
Just to let council know, we did not hear from the Litchfield Park Little League because the individuals are all at baseball games. So if you have any questions for them, I guess you could go to the city manager. That completes our presentations. We will find out what these confidential issues are. We'll get through that and then we'll get you to vote using your little voting sheet that everybody has been sent. I would encourage you to use these votes responsibly. We've had sometimes the council members kind of color outside the lines and put votes in that really were not helpful in coming up with what the consensus of the council is. So realize that we're going to be using these as a guidance to see what can be awarded. So I think with that, unless there's some other question, that topic is done. We'll go on to the presentation on the operating and the capital improvement project budget from Peterson.
What do you say now? Mr. Mayor.
Oh, Councilman Claire had your hand up? I can't, okay, no, I guess I can see your hand now.
He's muted, sir.
You're gonna have to unmute yourself.
It's real quiet.
I help packet ask for 1,000 worksheet shows 5,000.
What was that page?
It says the I help packet ask for 1,000, but the worksheet shows 5.
He's talking, but we can't hear him.
So we can't hear him at all? Is that what the problem is?
He's very low, sir.
Huh?
Councilmember Claire, would you speak up again, sir?
Yeah, I don't know, can you turn up his volume?
Paige, is he typing in the chat?
Yeah.
I think maybe Jeremiah, can you clarify?
I'm bringing the application right now. I think the actual request was probably 1,000. I don't remember.
Yeah, that's what I have here.
So I'm not sure where if the 5,000 is the discrepancy, but I know that the request was.
So just for council's clarity, so if I'm understanding this correctly, the sheet shows that they're requesting $5,000. However, their actual request is for $1,000. Is that correct, sir? And that was for Valley, or
For IHELP.
for iHelp.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank
Just to
you.
be in line with the actual.
Councilmember Claire, was that your concern, sir, what I just said? He looks frozen. Okay.
Get the sheet in. I can get a sheet.
The packet.
Oh, you printed it out.
And we will send you guys a note about that when we send out the dates for the scoring sheet, et cetera. Thank you, Councilman Claire.
Councilman Claire's hand is still up, but he's done. And we can go to him anyway.
I think he's frozen.
I think it's frozen.
And he's frozen now, so it's even perfect. All right. Technology is working very well again today. All right, so we're gonna go on to the fiscal year 27 operating and capital improvement projects budget. Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight, we're going to go over our fiscal year 27 budget. Just to quickly go over our agenda tonight, we'll start with the fiscal year 26 year-end projections. So we know where we're starting off in fiscal year 27 that starts July 1st. We'll go over the personnel and operating budget separately, a quick capital improvement overview, and then our fund balance estimate and projections. And we have a few special revenue funds that I'll briefly touch on. So just to make you all aware of what we've done to get us to this point, we started this process in February when we met with all the department directors. We explained the budget process, our guidelines and our expectations for them. We gave them that entire month to evaluate their spending for the past 3 fiscal years, what they project their current year spending to date will be, and evaluate their needs for 27. Based on that evaluation, they brought Matthew and I their budget requests. In March, Matthew and I sat down with every one of them. We went through every line, had multiple questions, just to make sure that we were both comfortable with the requests that all the departments had. That brings us to tonight, so I will present all of those budget changes and requests. Then next month at the regular council meeting, we'll adopt the tentative budget, and I just like to reiterate that sets the maximum expenditure for the year. So once we adopt that tentative next month, that's it. That's our ceiling. In June, we'll do the final budget adoption. We will need to have a special meeting in July for tax rates for our streetlight improvement districts and the village at Litchfield Park CFD. And then the date is to be determined, but we will have a future work study session to discuss our capital projects that won't be on a council night. It will be just strictly dedicated to capital projects. So
just a note, the purpose of doing this capital review, project review on a night other than a council night is that we think the review is going to take some time, and we don't want to be under a constraints where we're worried about being here till 10 or 11 o'clock at night. So the work study will be a separate night, not on a normal council members night, so that we can spend the time to go through these projects in detail.
thank you, Mayor. Just briefly touching on our 26 operating revenue projections. These are our ongoing revenues. I'm projecting they'll come over budget about 822,000 or 5%. I just want to point out our largest revenue source, our local sales tax, is flat. We've just not seen any growth, but it hasn't decreased either. And then our state shared revenues, pretty flat. The biggest two things bringing us over budget are our building permits are higher than we anticipated, and our investment earnings. Moving on to our operating expenses. We do have very tight operating budgets. We don't include any quote unquote fluff in our operating budgets. So they will come in probably about 2% under budget, or 228,000. So overall, our projected revenues over expenses will be about 2.7 million at the end of the year. Our recreation and special events cost recovery, there is a council policy that rec needs to recover 50% and special events at 90%. Rec will be about 54% and special events will be about 93%. However, the special events, it does not account for all of the hours that the public grounds puts in. So if we factor that in, this number would be a lot different. We're just now tracking those numbers so we can start giving better costs of the events. Moving on to this year's capital projects, or one-time revenues for capital projects, will be about 2.9 million. Our committed projects, all of these projects you see up here are underway right now, and we will spend about 12 million through the end of June. So our fund balance summary, we started the year with 31.2 million and we'll end the year with about 24.9. So that takes us to our fiscal year 27 personnel budget. I'll pause for a second if anybody has questions on 26.
Questions about what's been gone over so far? Good. All right.
So on the personnel side, there are a few changes. We are seeing a 9% increase in our health insurance. ASRS rate it's about flat, but with higher salaries, that does bring higher retirement costs. A little minimum wage in the employer taxes is about 172,000. And then on the recommendation side, we are recommending a 3% cost of living adjustment for staff. The CPI in December, which has always been our benchmark, was 2.8. So we've rounded up to 3. It's in line with what we did last year and also in line with the other West Valley cities. And then we're also recommending an up to 2% merit that is dependent upon the employee's evaluation. So that could be a possible total of 5%. And then we have some other one-time staff adjustments, promotion, etc. So those two together is 435,000. Now, we did have several departments request new positions. Matthew and I don't disagree that there is a need for these positions. However, we just don't feel that with our revenues flat, that we can recommend adding these to the budget, but what we are recommending is including these in contingency. And we wait and see, first make sure that that need is present once the new year starts, and also make sure that there's available funding to support any new positions.
You want to expand on that one just a little further?
Sure. Just
a note on this one. As Paige said, we would recommend that these positions be in contingency. So what that means is if, say, council decides to add these next October, that would require two council actions. One would be to approve the money to be moved from contingency, and also a change of the employee roster. As part of the budget process, you guys will approve or consider an employee roster that lists how many positions. So if you decide to add those later in the year, you would have to vote to revise that employee roster also to list these additional positions. So just to be clear, just because it's in the contingency doesn't mean that it happens. Rather, again, it would take a vote by council to spend the money from contingency and also to update the employee roster. Just want to make sure you understood that. Thank you.
Any questions from council on that point? Okay.
So just a year over year comparison on the wages and benefits. This is the breakdown of that 435,000. 7% of that is wages, 8% is benefits, and 6% is employer taxes. Again, just to reiterate, all FTE additions have to be approved by council, like Matthew just mentioned. That brings us to our operating budget. So our fiscal year 27 ongoing revenues. So our ongoing revenues are what support our ongoing expenses. So we're looking at, again, flat revenues for city sales tax. And sorry, I lost my train of thought. Just a little increase in our permits. So pretty much flat, about 2% over last year's budget. But if you looked at the projected column, it's about 500,000 less than what we're projecting to receive this year. So I do think we should err on the side of conservative when it comes to our revenues until we see how they actually perform. The impacts to our state shared revenues, if you look at what we collected in 24, we were at 3.2 million. Next year's only about 2.8. The biggest impact to that was the state's 2.5% flat tax. And then there's been some small changes, such as the Santan Valley Incorporation. It's about 17,000 for us. And then the state's federal income tax conformity, which the state has not made a decision yet, but that could be between 42 and 84,000. However, those changes are already built into to our revenue number for 27. Moving on to our ongoing operating expenditures. There is a 10% increase on the operations side. So we just went over the salary and benefits portion of that, 435,000 or 29% of that increase. And then the operating is just over $1 million or 71% of that. And I'll get into the details of that. We have a lot of new exciting things that are coming on board, such as the Litchfield Park Library and the Hilltop Park. So adding these new amenities, it does come with reoccurring costs. We've also increased our levels of service so that that's additional tree maintenance, it's additional park maintenance, a dedicated facilities manager. Just those two together, the increased levels of service and our new amenities is about 330,000. Then we have some cost increases that we saw. One real significant increase to us is the water rate increase. Will be about a $250,000 impact to us. Public safety is about 111. Our debt payment is increasing 99,000. Software is 64. You know, then we get into the smaller increases, but those smaller increases, they still add up. So when you add all of those together, those cost increases are about 713,000. Are there any questions on the operation increases before I move on?
Maybe just a question to make sure the council understands the projections that you have made for revenue on the sales tax side. does not include any potential sales tax generated by the theater, performing arts center. Because we don't have any idea what that's gonna be. But there is a sales tax on many of the activities that we know will go on up there, such as concerts or groups that come in to perform. So there will be some generation of sales tax. At this point, it's very hard to project what that might be.
Correct. And next year will be a good baseline for us, moving forward, what the PAC will generate.
The intent is that, the intent when we started down this path was that the sales tax that was generated by the theater would pay for, or come close to paying for, the cost to maintain the hill. So we're hoping there'll be some significant taxes over the course of a year, but time will tell on that.
There will be additional maintenance needs at the Hilltop when the park is actually open, and that's part of those contingent positions. There's 4 grounds positions, but at first we want to see exactly what it will take before we bring that back. So hopefully that revenue is.
But we need to see the revenue to go along with it.
Yes. So the rec and special events cost recovery for next fiscal year, rec is just over 50 and special events is at 92. So a summary of our ongoing revenues and expenses. Bottom line, we're looking at 486,000 revenues over expenses. So at the beginning, I talked about where we'll end this year, about 2.6. So you can see that revenues over expenses is getting smaller. So the new revenues coming online for us is very important. So quick, capital improvement budget overview. Before I get started on the numbers, I just want to talk about the process of how we like to do this. The mayor already touched on it, that we'll have a dedicated work study session. We've been talking about several projects for over a year now. We've talked about issuing bonds for some of them. However, with flat revenues, we just are not comfortable recommending that right now. We want to look at revenues that we are certain we're going to get, our fund balance, what we're currently committed to, and then what's left. For everything else, we need to wait and see what new revenues come online and just how our existing revenues perform. So our one-time revenue projections for next year that we're pretty confident in is about 3.4 million. Then we have some potential one-time revenues. Such as the Sun Health's 50% contribution for Camelback West, that is contingent upon their development. The sale of Litchfield Square parcels 13 and 14, that's pending. And we've been discussing bonds for a long time, so I wanted to include that as well. However, that does require council approval and would add an $800,000 debt payment to us, which we don't have the revenues to support that right now.
And just for some additional information the council has, if you go back, the Sun Health contribution of that 3.8 million, I've had a couple of meetings with the Sun Health president, Joe LaRue, and he assures me that the funds are available in Sun Health, that they don't need to go raise any funding for the project, that they have the funds, and they are committed to doing Camelback Road the first of the year. The only thing that has to happen is their board has to approve it, and he anticipates that will not be an issue. So those funds appear to be something that, while we can't count on them, it's very likely they're going to happen. I've also talked and met with Mr. Pointer about parcels 13 and 14. He assures me that he is absolutely committed to building that project. The only question is whether or not he will wait and or bear the expense of obtaining a 100-year water certificate so that he can build condos. But if he can't answer the condo question by end of May, then he intends to go forward with a two-story building, so 40,000 square feet total, with just all commercial, no condos. And he intends to have he started construction called Sticks in the Ground by December of this year. So again, it's very likely that the parcels will be sold. He's definitely, I think we're done negotiating the DA with him. It's just a matter of understanding, is it going to be a three-story building with condos or a two-story building without condos. Yes.
I have a question about what you just said with the Sun Health 50% contribution contingent upon development. Is that contingent upon Sun Health developing? What is that?
Yeah, I don't know what, I didn't write the words contingent upon development because I don't believe it. I don't think it's contingent. What's contingent upon is Sun Health doing what they've told us they're gonna do, which is they want to finish Camelback Road. I think within their world, they need to have Camelback Road finished so they can get their development partner to sign on to build the houses that are in their development. So there is a contingency on their side about getting their developer to sign on so that they see that they're actually going to be able to build their development. But the conversations that we've had, you know, they understand that for them to attract a partner or development partner, Camelback has to be built. It has to be fixed because it doesn't show well. It's the same kind of problem we had when we were talking to Olafria about the investment in the Hilltop. It was in such poor condition that it just doesn't show well. So it's hard to convince somebody to invest a lot of money in it when it doesn't look good. So Camelback needs to get fixed if they're going to be able to see if they're going to be successful at getting a development partner.
And in your conversations with Joe LaRue, he made it clear that was going to be happening next year.
That's what he said. They have the funds and they are committed to doing it. And literally it's the first time in a decade that they have been in front of the city at trying to get us to move faster than what we were moving at doing the design work. They were ready to do the design work, and we had to go through our processes internally to get to the point where we could even agree to do the design work. So for one time, they actually were in front of us. And the purpose of the design work was so that they're doing the work on Litchfield Road, and when the construction crew is done working on Litchfield Road, they literally want to go around the corner, start on Camelback, so they don't lose their mobilization. We'll see if they can move that quickly. That's their intent. So. Okay, any other questions?
Looking at the capital projects that have been identified for next year, we are already committed to about 6.6 million. These are projects underway. We have about 14.3 recommended, Camelback Road being about half of that. There's some small projects within the city manager's authority and then some potential projects. I am going to send out this detailed list to all of you. So you'll have all of the detail, and there will be a column for you to rank the projects, what you believe is a higher priority. But before that, I want to explain what we have actually available to do that. So even though we've identified 25 million, we have to take two things into consideration, and that's the available funding, but also our state imposed expenditure limitations. So when you pay for capital projects out of your fund balance or with your ongoing revenues, that counts against our expenditure limit. If you issue bonds, projects paid for with bond proceeds are excluded from that. Since we are just looking at cash only, our expenditure limit for next year is about 25 million. Once we subtract everything else we need to pay for, that leaves us with about 13 million that we can spend on capital projects. We've already committed to half of that. So that leaves about 6.1 million in recommended projects. And that would bring our available unassigned fund balance to about 5.3. The city manager projects can fall within our expenditure limit, and then it would bring our available balance to about 5 million. The potential projects on that list, these are projects that we don't believe are a high priority or recommend at this point. There's just not enough spending authority for us to do those anyways.
I'll make one note on that.
Mm-hmm.
Mayor and Council, just a couple points here. One, on city manager projects, what that means is I have the authority to approve projects just to $1 under $50,000. However, just to be clear about that, Those are for separate projects. For example, I couldn't and wouldn't take a $500,000 project and divide it up into 10 different expenditures. That would be wrong, and I wouldn't do that. So my spending authority is for projects for $50,000 or less. I couldn't circumvent policy and divide a project multiple ways. So I just want to be very clear about that. City manager projects are small projects. For example, when we recently did the bleachers at Staggs Park or Scout Park, those are things that fall. I think those were $15,000, something like that. That's a good example of a city manager project that I can approve under my authority. Okay, so just to explain what that is. Also, on potential projects, as Paige said, not enough spending authority. You've heard us mention the idea of a bond. That's something council could choose to do. You will see on the CIP sheets that we're recommending more projects than you can pay for right now. However, you could with a bond if you choose to do that. But it's important to remember when you're looking at these CIP sheets that if it's not on the budget, you can't build it if you choose to. As a reminder, if it's on the budget sheet, you approve the budget. However, any project, again, over $50,000 has to come back to you guys for approval. You guys would have to approve the contract. You have to approve the project. Just because the project is listed on the budget does not mean it gets built. Okay, I'll be very clear about that. And again, if the project isn't on the list, you can't do it. So it's better to have it listed on the budget just in case, if that makes sense. Okay.
And it's not so much that the project has to be listed. It's the total funding amount that we have. Total funding amount that we approve in our budget is the maximum we can spend. That's correct. Now, we may not spend it on a project that's identified that we use to generate that total number. It's the total number, it's a financial number, it's not a project number. So working on this part of our job does not impact the question of which project are we going to actually build.
Right.
It's the legal budget authority, and when we adopt that, or when you adopt that budget next month, that sets our legal budget authority. So we do recommend we budget all of this authority, even budget for bonding authority or even grants. So it's always good to just budget for all of the what ifs. And as Matthew said, every single one of those has to come back to council. And like, as the mayor mentioned earlier, some of those potential one-time revenues that I mentioned, there is a high likelihood that we could actually receive some of those. So budget for every possible situation, and then we actually see what happens and bring you those projects.
Right. So if we budget for everything that we may want to spend, and if we get the one-time revenue that is likely to be coming in, we still will not be able to spend all of it next year because of the state limitation on spending. So it will be spread out over 2 years, just so you know. I mean, these projects, and that's things that we'll talk about when we talk about the specific projects themselves, is the timing of when they might happen. Because if it turns out that we decide not to do a bond because we don't have enough ongoing revenue to support that as a conservative financial decision, we should have the money, but the money will have to be spent over a couple of years.
That brings us to our fund balance summary for next year. We should start the year with about 24.9 million. If we went over all the scenarios we just discussed, we'll end next fiscal year with about 15.7 million. I just want to touch on the council's fund balance policy. So the council restricts about $10 million. So when we're at the end of June of next year, when we're sitting here at the same meeting next year, our unassigned fund balance available for projects would be just over 5 million. Again, that's assuming we didn't receive any of those potential one-time revenues and revenues stayed flat. So very conservative outlook here.
You mind on that one too, Paige? Paige is doing a great job. In fact, there's a few key points to discuss. So the difference there between unassigned fund balance and minimum reserves. As you see, the total number is 15 million. Unassigned fund balance is about 5. What that means is your minimum reserve funds of various things are about $10.5 million. So even if you spent that 5 million there, which is the unassigned fund balance, you would still have a balance of 10.5 million per policy that we're required to keep cash on hand. Does that make sense? I think that's very important to understand the difference between reserve policies and unassigned fund balance, because those are two very different things. This city is very fiscally conservative and always will be. Thank you.
So just a quick summary and recommendation. So our budget is balanced. Our one-time revenues and our unassigned fund balance can fund the committed one-time projects and some of the recommended projects up to our spending authority. Our minimum fund balance policy has been met. It's 10.7 million. Staff does recommend including the capacity to issue bonds in the event council would like to consider that if revenues could support it. And we also recommend including the budget capacity for all projects in the capital project list. In the event revenues do better than we expect, we receive some one-time revenues such as grants, and most grants are excluded from our expenditure limit. So if we did get a grant, that wouldn't count against that limit most of the time. Sorry, there's like a black box on my screen, so I'm having a hard time reading it. And if the council would like to issue bonds for specific projects. And that concludes the general fund overview. I'm happy to answer any questions before I quickly go over our special revenue funds.
Questions from council? Okay, we'll move on.
Yeah. So our HERT fund, this is our highway user revenue fee fund. It can only be spent on roads. Next year's revenues are estimated to be about 524,000, and we'll have some interest earnings of about 10. We'll start the year with 89. So next year's HERF budget will be about 610,000. Bringing on the dedicated street superintendent, I see having no problem getting this money spent and the roads maintained. Our special revenue funds for the court, we do have 3 court funds. The court enhancement fee is under the city council's authority. We should have about 67,000 to spend next year. I am going to bring to you soon an item to eliminate that minimum $50,000 balance that we've had on the books for a while. I think we feel like there's no reason to have that minimum anymore. I think that fund will generate about 18,000 in revenues moving forward. Now the next 2, these are state controlled funds. So even though we are in possession of these funds, we have to have authority from the Arizona Office of the Court. So we essentially have to write a grant. So since we contract with Avondale to handle our court services, they know the money that we have in here and know that if they need a copier or something that's used for court for Litchfield Park, that we have some funding available for that. Our streetlight improvement districts, this is a very high level draft. I need to wait and see what the next round of property taxes brings in. If you remember, this is the one that started out in the negative because of that lawsuit. I need to make sure we're on track to get that back in the black. So these are high level estimate until I bring this back to you next month. And then I know the vice mayor will be very happy that final payment at the village CFD will be in July. So this will be the last year for the village.
The property tax decrease.
And there'll be a property tax.
Okay. We have to find out some way you can, your citizens over there can pay us, continue to pay us. Or start to pay us instead of paying back the bank.
And that concludes my presentation.
All right, any questions from council? All right, great presentation. Thank you for a very detailed explanation of what can be a complicated subject.
Thank you.
All right, if there's nothing more, then we're going to go on to the next item, which is an e-bike and e-scooter update from Ms. Coach.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, good evening. The first of 4 very exciting presentations for me this evening. Let's talk about everyone's favorite nuisance. So e-bikes, e-scooters, also known as electric bikes, electric scooters, have proliferated. A number of cities have had recent adoptions of text. We're not there quite yet. We wanted to have this work study session with you all before we introduce any sort of introduction or adoption of ordinances covering this sorts of things. So I'm going to go over what these are and what these are not. So for e-bikes, this is straight from state law. This is almost universal, I think, across the whole nation at this point. There's 3 classifications. The first, up to 20 miles an hour, requires you to pedal in order to get assistance from the motor. A class 2, up to 20 miles an hour, but you can just hit that throttle. You don't need to necessarily pedal. And a class 3 is up to 28 miles an hour with the pedals and the throttle. The bike you see before you is all 3 classifications, because the way they sell them nowadays is basically you as the buyer can turn off the governor and crank that up to a class 3 on demand. So how these mix and how we delineate these classifications is essentially impossible nowadays, because all of them can be reprogrammed with the onboard computers they have. You'll note, I'm very thankful, at least this vendor, who's actually based here in Arizona, has a little tiny little footnote that says we're permitted by state law, because nearly every municipality has prohibited class 3s where there are pedestrians or walkers, strollers, that sort of thing. For the e-scooters or electric scooters, what have you, there are state law requirements. They have a handlebar, there's a platform or a seat, and a single rider. I saw 2 kids sharing a scooter today going home from Western Skies. It's nice that they're buddies, I guess. And this is not considered a motor vehicle, just sort of clarifying that, because there's a few other things that are. So as far as the bikes, the scooters, I'm saying that generally, if you're on the streets, and if you're not in a bike lane, you are a motor vehicle in the sense that you do need to follow traffic laws. There's no California rule. You stop at stop signs, you stop at red lights, you follow all those rules. You're allowed to go on the bike lane if there is a bike lane. The scooters can be in the bike lanes as well, where there is a bike lane available with signs and the little bike stencil on the ground. And we do allow bicycles on the streets, on our sidewalks and pathways. The state does not prohibit bikes on sidewalks. It is up to each municipality how they would like to handle that. For us, even with the pathway, you think 10 feet wide, you think the colored concrete, yes, for bicycles, as well as sidewalks, which we've seen, you know, out here in the little 4-foot sections that are gray concrete. Golf carts, we have definitions beyond just what the state says. The state calls it a motor vehicle, registration, plates, insurance, mirrors, the whole thing as far as the vehicle on the road. We have definitions locally. It's up to 25 miles an hour, 1,800 pounds, unladen, meaning nobody's in it yet, and up to 4 people. We probably owe an update to this because there's a lot of 6-seaters nowadays. We don't have any sort of local law or provision for those sorts of larger profile versions. And then we do allow golf carts on our pathway system, and I've put in there motorized and non-motorized. This is the only city I've ever worked in where you do have that interaction between a vehicle essentially and a pedestrian on those 10-foot pathways. Speaking of pathways, I pulled this photo from the archives. I always like it. It notes pathway for use by pedestrians, electric carts, and bicycles only. This has been how it's been since before we were us. This goes way back. Litchfield Park Properties days, come by a new house in Tierverde. So pedestrians, as mentioned, carts, bicycles. Curiously, I didn't know this until I dug a little deeper in chapter 13 of our code. There's a 15-mile-an-hour limit on bicycles, but there's a 25-mile-an-hour limit on golf carts on the pathways. And regardless of any other type of use, the pedestrian always has the right of way on that pathway. So they need to stay on passing, alert, ring the bell, what have you. The pedestrian does not need to move off the path. The cart needs to move aside, or the bicycle. So pedaling, the other kind of pedaling, the wrong idea, because this has come up a lot lately. An e-bike must have pedals. If it doesn't, it's not a bicycle by state law, by local law, and these are essentially an unregistered, unlicensed, uninsured motor vehicle. So these toys that we've seen a lot with the wheelies and things, if they don't have pedals and you don't see them going like this is essentially an unregistered vehicle. And at that point, if they don't have tags, license, insurance, there's minimum ages to ride, there's classification for license, helmets, goggles, the whole thing. Then it becomes a Avondale PD issue, Avondale Litchfield Park PD issue. I had to put this in here too. It's not really part of our conversation, but I do wonder if we're in the same sort of fad. We all had that hoverboard. You know, if you had those kids 10 years ago, that everyone had a hoverboard in 2015 and 2016. It doesn't hover. I don't know why they called it a hoverboard. The proper name is an electric personal assistance mobility device. So same as a one wheel, a Segway, sort of niche things. This is straight from state law, so they do define this sort of thing. But this seems to be a bit of a dodo bird at this point as far as all these sorts of alternatives. Not for tonight, but if you do want more information, I did a video with the city of Glendale just very recently in my former life. I'm gonna pause that or just move right ahead. That you can watch. It's about 4 minutes that goes over a lot of this same information. That's a really brief overview of this. We are in the process of going through our code to see where our deficiencies are on these new devices. We are certainly not unique in our approach. We're looking at Peoria, which just recently adopted, and other cities that recently adopted, just to add new definitions that we don't address. And really, we're open to any sort of feedback or discussion regarding how you'd like us to tailor our local laws, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments, Mr. Vice Mayor?
You said that our code allows a speed of 25 miles an hour by a golf cart on the pathway. Number one, it's fast. And that's probably too high. And I thought we addressed this 10 or 15 years ago. And we went through all of the problems and gyrations trying to figure out what a golf cart was. Because you've got electric, you've got gas, you've got some that have been pumped up, lots of issues we went through, and we came up with electric 25 miles an hour capable, but I thought, I didn't know that we said 25 miles an hour is legal on the path. 15 seems far more reasonable.
Vice Mayor, everything you're stating is what I found in 13-3-3 of our city code. Up to 25 miles an hour, electric is like the third word in that definition of golf cart. So everything you're stating is correct. I didn't find any evidence to suggest that they have a speed limit of 15 on our books today in section 13 of the city code. It does mention up to 25, which I found was surprising, and made a note to myself as far as what that section was, because I was somewhat surprised as well.
Maybe that should be fixed.
How are you gonna enforce that?
Yeah.
Put a
Only
radar gun on the.
Only when we have somebody who's out of control and being dangerous.
Yeah, I just
reckless.
I just think it'll be, put it in and make it, try to get it slowed down, but I don't know how you enforce it. Block them. Get the Avenue Police golf cart, they'll go 30 and you can follow something down the sidewalk and see how fast they're going. I don't know. That's still how you figure that out. Yes.
I just had one comment. Randy, I think this is a great idea. I have seen, Ron, hello?
I think that was Councilman Brandon Watson.
Okay. I have seen kids riding, I think, unauthorized. I don't think they have pedals, so I think they're whatever they are. I've seen them riding it, and I got scared watching them. I was like, oh my gosh, somebody's going to get hurt, and this is dangerous. So that aside, I think it would be good to have some guidelines. So thank you for your work on that.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I think the Vice Mayor's question is interesting. So we do occasionally, or I should say Avondale PD does occasionally pull over golf carts for bad behavior, etc. And our traffic officer is here with us tonight. Sir, am I correct in that a radar gun will work on a golf cart? Okay. So we would know how fast the golf cart was going. The problem with there is the golf cart driver won't. I don't think I've never seen a golf cart with a speedometer, have you?
Yes,
No.
the newer ones do.
Do they? Okay, all right. I just thought it was an interesting point. 25 seems fast to me too.
25 feels really fast in a golf.
Yes, sir.
That's
Too fast for e-bike, too fast for a golf cart. I just want to make that point. We do occasionally pull golf carts over.
I just when you think about where you see the carts at and where the cart might be going 25 miles an hour, you think of all the different sections of our neighborhood. Once you're in or around Village Parkway, or once you're south of the rec center, or once everybody's on the street. The carts are rarely on the pathways. Once you get into the heart of our cities, and I think where you're maybe seeing the 25 miles an hour is going to be like the people coming down from Sunset Terrace that come right across, and then they cross right by at the Camelback and Litchfield intersection, and then they rip right down to where the mayor's house is, and then turn in and they get on Old Litchfield. I think that's where you might see. But
I don't think you're gonna see 25 on that pathway. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to keep it on the pathway at 25.
I just don't, I just kind of, I think I tend to agree with you on this. Do we really need to try to enforce or rewrite something to say 15 on that? It just doesn't seem like a widespread concern.
Yeah, I would be more likely to support the idea of trying to get golf carts just to use the road.
Yeah.
It's safer to use the road. The pathways with people walking, walking their dogs, it's not really, pedestrians and golf carts really don't mix very well, with it being the golf carts that are available today because they are so much faster.
Mayor?
I can imagine a 4-person or a 6-person golf cart on a pathway. It's like taking a bus stop. It's probably not very safe.
Mr. Mayor.
Who is it? Is it Councilman Brandon Watson?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I want to share an incident with you all because I think this is a really important thing for us to get involved with. 2 Fridays ago, my husband and I were out headed to dinner, and as we pulled out onto Old Litchfield Road, headed north, a gang of e-bikes, and I'm going to call them that because our behavior was gang. 6 or 7 of them initially took the entire roadway, spread out side by side, doing wheelies, doing all sorts of acrobatics, standing on their seats. I mean, it was one-upsmanship all the way around. And to Jack's great dismay, I said, follow them. I want to capture this on video and send it to our police department. So we did. And they went the entire way around the loop of Litchfield, back up through the city intersection, the downtown intersection, and did not stop at a single traffic control anywhere, except at Wigwam Boulevard, where they stopped and blocked traffic. They were a clear and obvious danger to everyone around them and to themselves. This is an issue we need to be responsible for and take on head on. I don't know for sure how it's to be handled. I think we need to come up with some good ideas. I think education is part of it. I think we need to get our police out there, and they were, I have to tell you, they were so responsive. I told the officer on duty where they were, and he responded, went and talked to all the parents involved, and indicated that this was a problem they had been trying to resolve. We've got to do something about it, and I don't know if ticketing is the answer. They can be ticketed, I understand, from the officer if they are not wearing a bike helmet, or if they are doing something that can be considered endangering others. But I just feel like we need to put teeth in it. With regard to the 25-mile-per-hour speed limit on golf carts, my recollection is that was put in place to determine which golf carts could actually travel on the streets. You had to be able to reach the speed of 25 miles an hour in order to be on the street. And I think that's probably so far out of date right now. I mean, we've got people who have their golf carts hopped up to levels that frankly are way past what they should be. And I think this is something as a council we need to take head on. Thank you for recognizing me.
Okay, Councilman Fraser.
Randy, the Peoria city ordinance that they just passed, I believe what I read was that all e-bikes and scooters are considered motorized transport, motorized vehicles, requiring every operator to be 16 years or older and licensed. Is that correct?
Councilmember Frazier, as a 20-year employee of Peoria, I've left that in the past, but I will resume my interest in their activities, regardless of how many times they're in the headlines lately, to confirm that. I haven't talked about it tonight as far as the nuances of minimum ages, helmets, responsibilities of the caretaker for those that are underage. Our language that we've started writing is in line with the others. Offhand, I don't know what that exact language was. It's not our intent to reinvent the wheel. We'll certainly fall in line with those that we've seen around us. And I found it and pulled it up here as far as, again, currently in the books, 13-3-3-D. No person shall operate a golf cart on pathways at a speed of more than 25 miles an hour. If this is something council is directing, it's not part of this new language, but I can certainly propose a change in this section of code as needed.
Are bicycles limited to 15 miles an hour?
That's correct.
And with golf carts do 25.
That is what is on the books.
Resistance on the council. I think they both need to be the same. I think they both need to be 15. Why would you let golf carts go faster than bicycles?
So they can catch those damn bikers. We can certainly change, I personally, as fast as the carts are, it's just easier to go on the street. I think most people do.
Yeah, if they want to go 25 miles an hour, go on the street. If they want to go 5 or 10 miles an hour, sidewalk's okay.
Yeah, the problem is we have areas because of the council made this decision that you could not drive a golf cart on Litchfield Road, or you could not drive a golf cart on Camelback Road because the speed limit was 35 miles an hour, even though by state law, it's possible to drive a golf cart on Camelback and Litchfield. It's okay under state law. The council changed that. And so by changing it, you force those golf carts onto sidewalks and you bring into potential conflicts between the golf carts and pedestrians or bikers. That was an unintended consequence of making people not drive on Camelback or Litchfield Road. So that's another way to solve this, is let the carts go where they go on the street, which is where there should be to start with. Yes, Councilman James.
And I remember, sir, that vote was 4-3. That was not a 6-1 or 7-0. That was a 4-3, and it was. I would support revisiting that.
It was a close vote, so I mean, it may just not be what we really need to do, but that's another there's another aspect of this. If you want to restrict golf carts on the sidewalks, fine. Let them go on the street.
We did that, no Camelback, no Litchfield Road, when we changed the speed limit to 35 and people were still doing 50 to 70 miles an hour down that road. With golf carts, that was not going to be safe. But with our recent enforcement and people understanding that there is a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit down there, you're going to have a lot more people doing in that 35 to 45 range, and maybe a golf cart does work. Yeah.
We didn't have any accidents between cars and golf carts. Okay, it's a theory that the golf carts were unsafe. In the theory in Sun City is the golf carts help keep the cars going slower because their golf carts are out there, and so people tend not to go 50 because they know they can't. They're going to run over golf carts. So there's different sides of this argument on whether or not it's safe to have a golf cart on a street that's 35 miles an hour. I don't think it's not. I don't think it's an easy. I don't think it's a black and white issue that it's unsafe for a golf cart to be on that road. I didn't agree with it then, and don't now. I mean, I think it would be better just to have them on the street. is that you can see them on the sidewalks and trying to use for those golf carts to use the sidewalk and try to use the crosswalks is just not, I mean, it's not a very safe situation. Well, if there's any other questions, I guess we're gonna get a further staff report.
Mayor, can I make one more comment?
Yes.
Randy, when you're looking at revising what we do have on the books, we talked about going from 4 passengers to 6 or accommodating however you want to do it. I think we need to make sure we put language in there that says in approved seats so that we don't have, because the other issue with golf carts is kids hanging on the back. Oh. You know, we saw one that had 6 kids on it, but it was a 2-person golf cart. So it was an interesting configuration, I'll admit. But I think we need to be very clear about they have to be on a seat, on a bench.
Thank you. Can do.
Mr. Wright, yeah, I'm sorry. Councilman Allen.
I just have one more question. So the city of Peoria one, it is 16 and it is like, you have to have a helmet and everything like that. So the only question I would ask it, whatever you bring back, is how do you address the kids who use these e-bikes to go to school and back? I think that that's something that we should consider in whatever guidance you bring back.
Thank you. And I'll reread Peoria's ordinance of how they handle scooters, because it seems the younger ones are using scooters, and I wouldn't want to, I don't know that we want to pick one of those options, but I'll look into it further.
It sounds like this will be a good topic for a work study after you get some ideas on a piece of paper.
Sure, can do.
Mr. Mayor, a few points.
Yes.
One, Councilmember Claire asked me if I would say, so if everyone is aware of this, the citywide speed limit is 25 miles per hour unless otherwise posted. That's been on the books since '87. So that, again, citywide. I would tell you also, for me, I was proponent of restricting golf carts on Litchfield and Camelback Road. And I have a golf cart too. But the reason why is it amazes me the residents that will tell me that they are going to slow down trucks with their golf cart. I don't see how in the world someone could think that's a good idea, but there are people that want to do that. So that was part of the reason why we restricted restricted golf carts to be on Camelback or Litchfield, because people are actually saying these things, right? You hope they don't actually do that. But I just thought that should be noted.
Okay. All right, we will be ready for you to come back and talk to us again. I would suggest you get Avondale Police involved in your conversations so that as you try to construct this, that we take that into account. Yes. I'm sorry.
Well, I wanted to say something.
Sure, absolutely. Go on.
Well, good evening. I'm Austin Tokoc. I'm the traffic officer here with Litchfield Park. Regarding golf carts, if you put them on the roads of Litchfield Road and Camelback, many of them are not registered or insured. The story I get when I stop them, they say, well, we're a small community. We've never had that done before. So if you're ever going to change that and put them on these major roadways, they have to be registered and have to be insured.
And that should be.
Yeah, but many of them are not. Especially the people that live on the Goodyear side by Millennium High School, they'll take the sidewalk all the way through Old Litchfield to pick up their kids at Litchfield Elementary School. And they'll ride that sidewalk with all the kids, two kids on each seat, 2 and 2 where they should be. And they'll ride the sidewalk all the way through back to their homes in Goodyear, bypassing roadways, bypassing registration and insurance, because their analogy is, well, I never go on the roadway. Well, yeah, you do when you're crossing the road elsewhere, you're on the roadway. So their thought process has to change. It is a motor vehicle. If it's on a roadway, it's got to be properly insured and properly registered. And that's the biggest issue I'm seeing by Litchfield Elementary School. And
we'll make, we need to take that into account, but it makes sense if you're going to. Unfortunately, golf carts, if you load them up with a bunch of kids, you got potential for significant liability. Yeah. When somebody gets hurt, and somebody will get hurt. I mean, just a matter of so many million miles, and somebody's going to get hurt.
Yes,
this statistical certainty.
Yeah.
So it would be better to have them registered. It costs like $20 a year to register.
Yeah,
and it would be better to get insurance. Insurance again, it's not. Maybe it's $200 a year.
And these other larger ones that you're seeing out there, during my traffic stops and communications with them, they identify them as low-speed vehicles, but they're still identified as golf carts on motor vehicle. So they want to minimize, well, it's not a golf cart, it's a low-speed vehicle, so I'm allowed to ride it still wherever I want to ride it. So the verbiage is different, but MVD still classifies them as golf carts. But there are a lot of them out there. I just want them to be properly registered like a car and be safe while they're operating these vehicles, especially around the kids, because it's busy.
Yes, Mr. Vice Mayor.
We tried to address this in the past, so I think we got it in our code, but for example, golf carts at the wigwam on a golf cart course are not licensed.
Yeah.
They cannot get to the red course without driving across two public roads in sidewalk.
They go on a sidewalk and they go in the crosswalk.
Yeah, so that needs to be addressed too, when you're looking at it, to make sure we don't mess that back up again.
Right. Yeah, we cannot require them to have every one of those carts registered, because they don't meet state law. There's no lights, and, you know, they don't have the equipment on it that would allow them to be registered.
They got to cross Litchfield Road, and they got to cross,
right.
Loma, yes, yeah, Fairway to Loma, yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor?
Mayor?
Yes.
One last comment. We had another incident where we were pulling out of the street Loma right beside the city hall there. And Jack had started rolling, and all of a sudden one of those e-bikes popped up through the tunnel and just went right in front of us. It was only because I happened to be looking that direction that kid did not get hit, or we didn't get hit. But I would also suggest that we look at those cross points, or those points where we know these bikes are going to come in and go out, and make sure that we have, if we can, put a stop sign up that says all traffic must stop at this, you know, or something that indicates that bicycles, e-bikes, golf carts can't just charge across the Loma because there's a stop sign for the Loma.
Okay, we'll take that into consideration. And then whatever input, Randy, you need to get input from the, you know, Avondale in terms of what problems are they seeing with e-bikes and golf carts or whatever, so we can try to address all these issues at one time.
Mr. Mayor, I was going to introduce, I don't know if you've met him before, but Officer Tokosh is our traffic enforcement officer. So I didn't remember if you guys have been introduced to him before, but he deals with all these issues directly, and he's doing a lot of the good work at slowing down some of our speeders in the city. So he's very aware of such issues.
No use, so.
Haven't seen you guys yet.
I just want to make sure you're ready.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for coming up to speak.
We appreciate it. All right, so that ends the e-bike, e-scooter update for tonight. Or, you know, more to be determined in the future. There's no need for an executive session, so the work study session is over. Does anybody need a few seconds or moments before we start our regular session?
I'm just gonna
Yes.
stand up for,
Okay.
keep going.
Stand up and stretch, do whatever. Huh?
What the heck?
It's a good idea.
Like a stand bag?
Just to see if I can still stand.
Yeah, it's like you gotta.
Anybody need coffee or water? We're gonna have you here for a while.
Meeting, I know there's a couple executive sessions.
Yeah, you want to pick it?
I got my Bible here.
Yeah. Can we get this done before we're done?
Are we going to get into the liberty situation at all with the minor? The issues, is that coming up in the executive session? Or
we can talk about that. I mean, explain to you what we're doing.
yeah, I mean, I talked with him last Tuesday, so he's going to go on Thursday. Dutch Oak connected me with him, just asking our water issues. I was a little there, you know, or a lot of Liberty developments. I'm aware that they were having challenges right now, so I'd like to know a little bit about that. I was surprised that
It's not, I mean, it's not really challenges, they just don't have, they don't have a, everything all
right.
How do you subdivisions, they're gonna supply the water.
Yes.
Joe says we can work it out, it's not a big deal, and that's what I'm hoping, but that's what I think, Joe's. A personal story, so until he gets back, that's where we finish our work, but if you know about it, you know about that kind of stuff.
Yes, the developer has to go through EDF. Because they're, designated spider, the developer, when they subdivide more than six units for sale, they have to go to EDWR and they have to get a shared water supply for 9 years. Basically, that EDWR has to go back to Liberty. Liberty has to say, yes, we have the water, here's where it's sourced from, here's all of our demands. So I have not, it's a hurdle.
Liberty has been able to satisfy you are just by.
Yeah, so I know, and, there's a number of subdivisions that are going up currently, that are going through the plan, that are in the little service areas. So I think it's just an administrative. We're up against there's not water, it's just instead of going around.
Yeah, and then that little start fund I talked about that we have control over a little bit.
I don't understand why they don't just get us.
Yeah, no, I've noticed an uptick. That's awesome.
Yeah, so. Well, we need, we wanted to find out, I wanted Joe to find out. Actually, we all.
So we only get a small piece of it, state most of it, but yeah, it's definitely an uptick.
That's a person that really needs that.
Sure, like we don't, like that's not why we wanted to have dedication, but.
It shouldn't, I think it's just an administrative hurdle. That's what I told him, and I looked into it a little bit. Yeah, I've not looked any residential developments called out.
For sure.
Water.
That's what Joe said.
And I think traffic will do more than one thing. Right. Thank you. Have a good night.
I'm gonna pretend like it's dessert.
Okay, so we're about ready to start? Yes.
Sure. We get the manager back.
Well, you're going, I'm going to.
Good feedback. So email you.
Record tonight on those touches.
Stop.
Oh, yeah. And you'll learn.
She says we have to protect people. What are we gonna show the reds?
I know.
Friday or Friday, I don't like it.
Yeah, you can't protect all of them.
Protect passengers. Don't need any drivers.
Take off and I watch the end of somebody else.
Mhm.
They look this way, they look this way, and then they go by the time,
It's seeing them in the dark on Village Parkway. Like a stop sign. They blow it, I'm like, one wheel in the dark. Scream and, I mean, doing probably 25 plus miles. On one wheel for the longest. And they're pretty damn skilled riding, but. They don't take one station, you see, it's such a. Probably not paying attention to watch, I'm sheriff. Yeah, because I don't have a very busy work day on Friday. And Abby's uncle Howard is on T-Box like 5. So if I can catch people, I want to like show up and heckle them a little bit. Put it on. Well, they're not here, no, just I think when I can just crazy. Yeah. Power right there.
Alright, you got the, and then on the tab, like up here, you just click on T sheets and round robin schedule, and it'll show you the pairings and the flights for all.
Great. Can I add this to my favorites?
And then the scoring, you know, the scoring's on there. So
I've seen
you can get on.
The roundabouts.
Yeah, and so like you can go in right now and pick
We have these roundabout.
16 flight that you can go in and get all the chart.
Great.
Halfway.
Tell you what folder going off.
Yeah, so Mike and Bo Mitchell are in the same flight with Mark Nicholas.
Yeah.
You probably have a record for how many tickets to your right for one.
And Katie Burgess right there. Cody. Yeah, he's in flight is
So we
Cody.
get the city
Yeah,
manager.
great. Okay.
Get everybody.
Yeah.
else. All right, we're gonna call the regular meeting of the city council to order. We're only 45 minutes behind schedule. We're doing well. First item is mayor and council members report on current events. Any current events that we need to go over tonight? Councilman Allen, start with you.
Well, I have some things I'd like to share.
Sure.
Thank you. I attended the Agua Fria Academies of the Southwest Valley Leadership Alliance. And Agua Fria was really kind of showcasing the success that they've had in making their transition to the academies model. And they attributed a lot of that to strong partnerships with educational institutions like WestMec, community colleges, universities, but also private industry and fields like healthcare and engineering, so that they have kind of a progressive model. They shared that they have nearly 2,900 students that are testing for different certifications, including OSHA and like medical assisting credentials. So I thought that was pretty neat. And one of the things that they were really proud of is that since they've transitioned to this, they've seen a 50% reduction in ninth graders receiving 1F. So they thought that that was like a great measure of success, and they are committed to expanding opportunities. The next thing I did was I attended a Westmark event that was focused on water, and the speakers were from CAP, EPCOR, and Howard Hughes's Teravalis development. It was interesting to kind of see the dynamics between all of those different speakers at the table. CAP obviously has concerns about, predictability in their water supply based off of the ongoing negotiations among the Colorado River Basin states. EPCOR has their 100-year assured water supply, and they feel like they're positioned to support growth through a lot of strict water management, while continuing to explore additional sources of water. And then Howard Hughes, the Teravalis, talked about their proactive efforts to really reduce water usage in their development, especially targeting conservation levels that are in line or even more restrictive than current state guidance. So I thought that was pretty neat. And kind of the key takeaway was really the importance of working together to develop an interconnected water system. And then today I will share that I attended the Purple Up event at St. Peter's Montessori School. They're a Purple Star school supporting military connected students through their programs with their staff, and Credit Union West was also on hand to support the event with a $500 contribution. So that was special to do. And then the last thing I wanted to share is that I have been working on something over the past few months. I've been conducting monthly listening sessions with our Hilltop strategic partners, and that's Sun Health, the PW Litchfield Heritage Center, the Maricopa County Library District, and the Agua Fria Hilltop Academy for the Arts. And this is a 6-month pilot consisting of just informal conversations with a focus on the partners' experiences working with the city, particularly in the areas of communication, processes, and overall engagement. And so we're halfway through. And I think the early feedback has been very constructive and generally positive. I really appreciate the participants' commitment to the course of the meeting. They expressed their appreciation of the opportunity to be heard and participate with the city, and the, just consistent themes that are emerging about the importance of clear communication with the city and having really good points of contact. So like I said, I'm halfway through and really focused on kind of strengthening the consistency in how we engage with our partners. And then once that is finished, I will be presenting another kind of final summary. Thank you.
Thank you for all your extra work. We appreciate it. Okay, Councilman James, do you have anything to report?
Just attended Luke Days. That was the weekend when it was 106 in the middle of March. I thought Luke they did a nice job managing. I know they had a lot of heat related issues, but all in all did a nice job with the traffic and flowing out, put on a great air show. And it's just a shame that it was, I think they had to actually end early on Sunday, but it was neat to see that and represent the city on that behalf. So that's all I have.
Okay. Councilman Frazier.
No, I see.
All right. Mr. Vice Mayor.
Online.
Well, we're gonna go online next. All right, how about Councilman Brandon Watson? Do you have anything to report?
No, sir, I do, Mama.
Well, she said no.
Yeah.
Okay. Councilman Claire.
No report, sir.
All right, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I've attended lots of events. We got a short night tonight. I just want to make one comment. The Astoria Rotary Club, I wrote a check last week for $100,000 to the PW Litchfield Heritage Center as a donation. So cool.
Okay.
Looking forward to it starting.
Yeah, it's making its start. It is making progress. I've also had a lot of events. I'm just going to mention one of them. Almafree had a dinner for its top 1% graduate, the top 1% of its class, graduating class. From each of the high schools came, and there were representatives from the cities. We had a nice little award ceremony for them. Really impressive young men and young women. It's heartening to see the really good kids. So it was a nice evening with the Almafree graduates. With that, we'll move on to the city manager's report. Do you have anything to add other than your report?
That's right or not, Mayor, Councilman, reports in your packet. Welcome any questions as always.
Okay. There are two proclamations that are in your well, so I skipped call the community. Do we have any call the community signups? Okay. This is an opportunity for residents or anyone to speak to the council on non-agenda item. We're going to go past it if we don't have anyone who wants to speak. Okay, we have no one who wants to speak. Next item is presentations. Week of they're in your packet. There's a proclamation that I have signed for the week of the young child. It is a proclamation concerning how we recognize and educate young children, how important that is to our society. So I urge you to look at the proclamation, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to talk about it. There's also a proclamation concerning professional. A question?
She's here to accept.
I'm sorry?
She's here to accept the proclamation for Week of the Child.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're here to, okay, you're here. Not only can you accept it, I'll read it to you. Normally I don't read them because we don't have someone here to accept them. So I'm happy you're here. So the proclamation is, whereas all of Arizona's children deserve access to quality early care and education in appropriate environments. Whereas quality child care programs build children's lifelong learning skills during their critical years from birth to age 5. Whereas early childhood education teachers and child care providers are part of the essential workforce that helps Arizona parents get to work or go to school. Whereas funding quality child care is a smart investment that improves family well-being and strengthens communities and grows our state's prosperity. Whereas first things first, Arizona Association for the Education of Young Children, Southern Arizona Association for the Education of Young Children, and other community organizations in conjunction with the National Association for the Education of Young Children are celebrating the 55th anniversary of the Week of the Young Child. Whereas these organizations are working to improve equitable early childhood opportunities that provide a strong start for children in the city of Litchfield Park. Whereas public policies that support ECE for Arizona's youngest learners help families and communities and the economy thrive. Now therefore, I, Thomas L. Schoaf, Mayor of the City of Litchfield Park, Arizona, do hereby proclaim April 11th through 17, 2026 as the Week of the Young Child. Signed the 15th day of April, 2026.
So much. We would love to get a photo.
Absolutely.
And thank you. Over here.
Well, let me come out there. We want to make, if we're going to have a special young man photo, we'll get that out here.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, don't tell me.
I can do whatever you want.
Well, now, all right. Okay. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you again, Mayor and council members. My name is Cynthia Pardo. I'm the Southwest Maricopa Regional Specialist with First Things First. And I just want to thank you all for joining First Things First, our partners and other cities in proclaiming Week of the Young Child and voicing your support for care and learning in our earliest years, the most important years. Childcare is a critical infrastructure for families to go to work and to thrive. And First Things First is a partner statewide with communities to ensure all children birth to 5 have the care and the resources to be ready for school and for life. And this is critical. Your support means more than ever. The resources that we all need as First Things First funds are declining. We're grateful that we have a partner in the city of Litchfield to continue the conversation. And this means the most to our families like Stephanie Morales. Would you like to share?
I'll keep it brief because my little guy just told me I need to go potty and he's been staying still for long enough. So I am a resident of Litchfield Park. Like Cynthia said, my name is Stephanie Morales. And I'm also a member of the Regional Partnership Council for First Things First for this region, the Southwest Maricopa region, which includes Litchfield Park. So I just want to thank the entire council for supporting this proclamation, supporting early childhood learning. It's imperative to, we like to say it's a business imperative to support families and support our workforce by providing opportunities for families for early childhood development. So thank you. Thank you for the support. And I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for everything that you do with our young children, because it is our future, and we need them to get started out on the right foot. So early childhood development is critical. Okay, the next proclamation is about Professional Municipal Clerks Week. We have a professional municipal clerk with us right here. She's in conversation with our professional finance director.
I'm sorry.
We're talking about professional municipal clerks. We want to thank you for all your service that you give to the city, and we recognize how important it is, the work that you do for us, and it's important that you are certified and a professional municipal clerk. And I know all that's in the proclamation, which I'm happy to read to you if you want me to, but you read it yourself.
I will cut you a break.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for all you do. We appreciate it. Okay, so then it goes on to our reports. I understand we have Chief Wayne here who's been waiting all evening to give us the report.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Tim Wayne with Goodyear Fire, here to report out on the March reports. I'll start with our Fire Prevention Bureau. We saw 5 plan reviews conducted, 5 construction permits, 3 special event inspections, and then 12 occupancy inspections. Our response numbers and totals for the month of March are as follows. 86 in total with 2 fires, 68 of those being EMS, medical in nature, 2 hazardous conditions. We have 6 false alarm calls and 7 good intent. I think I got those reversed. So again, in total 86, we are trending to be right about the same as we were last year. That'll stand for any questions.
Okay, questions from council? No, thank you for your service, and please thank all the guys in 183. We appreciate the service they give to our community.
Yes, sir. We're proud to serve.
Okay, it takes us on to our Avondale Litchfield Park Police Department. Lieutenant Rios is here.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. Here's the report for March. For the month, we took 577 calls for service compared to 420 the year prior. 74% of those were officer initiated, while 26% were citizen initiated. Officer Tokash helped us out by helping the team get 318 traffic stops together compared to 111 the year before. We issued 176 citations in March compared to 32 last year. Some notes: officers are continuing to conduct enforcement efforts along Litchfield Road and Camelback Road, specifically during the time of construction. We also had Officer Tokash conduct some nighttime operations, focusing on speeders. So he'll do that periodically from here on out. And then we also focused on the no left turn violations along Litchfield Road and Camelback. We did issue some citations and helped keep people safe in that area. Some community events that we participated with last month. We met with the Hilltop Academy leadership for security and partnership planning as they prepare to open later this year. We also provided security for the Art and Wine Festival, security for the Easter in the Park event. We did traffic control on Camelback for Loop Days. And we also helped plan the bike bus event with Litchfield Elementary and their PTSA. So it was a pretty busy month, and we're also proud to serve, and thank you guys very much. I'll take any questions if you have any.
Questions or comments? Thank you for all you guys do. Particularly thank you for the extra effort that Avondale as a department put in for the event at the Wigwam. It was good to have the extra security, and it went off without any problems, and I think you guys were part of it, so thank you for that.
Thank you, Mayor. It's our pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, yes.
All right, next item coming up is our finance report. Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything to report in addition to what's in the packet, but I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Questions from council? Okay, then we'll move on to communications update.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The March communications report is in your packet. Happy to answer any questions. Also wanted to note our America 250 progress on that. So we've been working with various community partners such as the Heritage Center, Litchfield Elementary School District, and the White Tanks Conservancy, among other partners, to kind of pull some programming together that'll sustain us through the end of the year, really.
Questions or comments from council? I will make a comment that your presence and your department has made my life so much easier, and I appreciate you being here. Particularly this time of year, we're called upon to make communication with the state legislators on a regular basis, and it seems like stuff comes up all the time that needs to have some attention. And it's nice having a staff member who is able to handle that. She can draft letters and she can make contacts. Between the two of us, we have helped in the work that the Arizona League is doing opposing legislation. So I want to thank you for all your efforts in that.
Happy to do it.
Okay, next item is contamination plume update. Mr. Duransky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Information is in the packet. Not a lot of movement this last couple months on the contaminations, but if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, questions from council?
You're not expecting any movement, are you?
Movement to the south.
It's not going to move it.
There's a lot of action. It just is, a lot of it is around the centroid area of the original contamination, and there's a lot of development around there, and they've done a lot of remediation, so they're really focusing in that area.
They are working. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, there are no questions. We can go on to the capital improvement update, which also is Mr. Duransky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. A lot of action out there. Information is in the packet. I'd be happy to answer questions.
Councilman James.
Just a comment, the execution on the Dysart Camelback intersection was fantastic. I mean, just, you said 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. and crews were pre-staged and ready to go at 4:30 or 5 a.m. And I think the project was done at 4 p.m. It was just, and done well too. I mean, you drive that intersection, you just, well, I mean, it's just, it's nice to, you know, when we hear about this delay or that delay or how it takes us to do the Camelback parking or this or that, it was just really nice to see something go off so flawlessly.
Thank you.
Well done.
It was a fun Sunday.
It was
out
well
there
done.
having fun.
Have you had any conversations with Southwest Gas on their schedule for moving the high pressure gas line that's impacting our underpass?
Mr. Mayor, yes, we had a utility coordination meeting last week, earlier this week. Thursday, yeah, it was Thursday. With Colliers actually ran it. We had all the utilities in the room. The initial design efforts have started. The paper, which is a better way of just saying paperwork, has started. They did give us a timeline for the relocation. They will not start until they have the next set of plans, and it's kind of a chase your tail because we can't go too far in our designs without getting too deep into the designs, giving the utilities their designs, and then having to go back and change. So fortunately, we're going to proceed with the different consultants on this, and we're going to get what I think is a much better utility coordination effort.
So we're going to have Colliers out and somebody else in?
Yes.
Okay.
And then we're going to give a refreshed effort on the utility coordination efforts. We have 15 conflicts, I think, in that underpass. Not all of them have to be relocated. That's just the identification. We did potholing along the whole stretch to find out what is there. There's a combination of abandoned utilities. Southwest Gas has that abandoned line because they put that new 12-inch line in there. Liberty has a 24-inch water main. That's going to be a big horizontal or vertical realignment. We haven't got that far yet. But I'd say at least half of those have to be realigned, including some feeder APS lines, which we talked earlier. Fortunately, the Litchfield widening project and I think a portion of the channel is affected by the feeder lines can't come out of service till after it stops being hot.
Okay. So we'll need to, obviously we need to have some good ideas of what the schedule is going to be on that underpass. So.
Yeah, and once we get, now that we're past the 30% plans, we can start evaluating, and not quite at a point where I can even have a contractor really look at it without having a lot of questions and a lot of unknowns. But we can have a rough order of magnitude where they can start looking at, here's an idea of cost and the schedule. Once we know, once the utilities are either out of the way or they're the type of utility relocation that can happen during construction, like the water line and the gas line, when there's an actual trench out there, a lot of utilities come in, work with our contractor and do the relocations at the same time we're putting portions of the box forward.
Right.
And that way we'll have a production rate with the utilities and our contractor.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Duransky? Councilman Allen.
In the March Gantt chart, it said that the final acceptance for the library was July 31st. And then in the April one, it said August 24th. Do you think that there's going to be any more kind of delays as we get closer to those dates?
Thank you, Councilmember Allen. That's actually a good thing to point out. So I have daily construction talks with Hayden. So the Gantt chart is here's where all the cards are on the table as it sits now. So we had delays for things like the roofing and some of the utilities and roadway and coordination of. That's what it looks like on paper. In the coordination efforts with Hayden, a lot of the things that are going to happen from now until that point are going to be slightly accelerated. So as we get closer to finishing the exterior and start working on the inside, more or less, and finishing up the parking lot, a lot of those items can be compressed to actual, because right now the Gantt chart is projected time. They're getting close enough to where they're going to start saying, okay, well, we estimated, 6 weeks here, it's actually gonna be 4. A lot of those critical path items that piggyback off of each other are gonna get compressed. There's still going to be some carryover in the final acceptance into August because of these delays. However, what's not going to be stopped is a temporary certificate of occupancy that's going to allow not only the library district to move in, get the equipment in, start operating, and be open at the time the school opens. We will just have things that have to get finished that they're not on the critical path, and they're not life safety hazardous things that'll keep the parking lot from opening, water flowing, utilities working, things like that.
Okay, thank you. That's really helpful. I had another question too. The roundabout because it looked like it was scheduled to be substantially complete on August 10th, but I think the school district starts like the week before that. So is that going to be an issue or
It's a very similar, so we recently had an issue where there's errors in the emissions in the design plans caused us to have to take out almost 400 feet of curb because it was 18 inches too low. So that result is in that schedule. In reality, what Nesbitt is able to do is they're going to compress a schedule by having crews later when a few other projects that are finishing up here in the next couple of months, month and a half. They're going to be able to come out and do a little bit more production a little bit quicker. So as of right now, their opening day for the roundabout, substantial completion, all the cards on the table says it's a little later, but they have contractual requirement to open all turning movements of the roundabout by the first day of school. And they have said that they're still going to meet that commitment.
Okay.
If they don't, the contract does say $1,000 a day, and they do not want to entertain
$1,000 a day?
$1,000 a day penalty. I wanted to add a zero on there, but
okay. I just had one other question. I had a little bit of sticker shock when I saw that the Hilltop Park Phase 1 came back so high. What are your thoughts on that?
A lot of us had that same sticker shock, and it was at least comforting to have 3 contractors come back with the same high price and let us know that everything is generally in the same parameter of scope and is clear enough for them to at least provide a scope. We are currently reevaluating how we are going to scope the Hilltop. I don't think we're far enough along where we can give too much detail, but it will definitely be modified. We are having the consultants finish the plans as if it's a better version of what we gave those contractors to bid, so that it's going to be a complete phase 1. But we are going to essentially take an electronic Sharpie and modify the scope of that park to what fits within the budget.
Does that require any redoing of the plans? Like we spent not quite a bit of money, but we spent money getting those plans done. Will this revision kind of require us to go back and redo those plans?
The short answer is we don't have to do anything to the plans. We just will say, excuse me, some things are not in contract for what the contractor is going to scope.
Okay.
So the idea is that, we'll have the front part and all the utilities will go in, everything, which actually is a big chunk of that money, utilities, with very little left over for Randy's petunias and bougainvilleas. But we are going to try to get as much out of that as we can. And I believe we are asking for additional permission to get more money.
So to clarify on that point a little further, so he is correct. So the good chunk of that initial cost is the fire access road. You can't open the park without being able to get a fire truck up there. A big chunk of it is utilities. Some of your biggest pieces are expensive items that have to be done to get it to stage 1 to open. So that's important to understand. I would tell you that the quotes that we received on the park are, try not to call them ridiculous, but they're too high, and they were made too high because contractors do that when they're trying to hit a moving target. The design plans, the conceptual plans we sent them left something to be desired, not because of staff's work, but some of the work that our design firm did. So they're giving us numbers to how to make sure they're covered, just in case, right? For example, one of the problems that we've seen in those design plans is the designer currently showed it that we would be burying historical palms in 20 feet of dirt. Obviously, we will not be doing that. So they are revising those plans to make them what we were looking for. But that certainly affects the cost. It affects the timeline, and those are things that we were working on to get that cost down. This will be like when we did Litchfield Square. When we started GMP 6, it started at 19 million, and we whittled it down to 13 million. It'll be the same thing on the Hilltop. We'll keep beating it up and get the plans where it needs to be, get the cost where it needs to be. But that is part of that issue. I would like to say thank you to both Keith and Randy. They're both working a lot on this project, getting a lot of things done. They're pivoting daily with things that pop up. If you notice, Keith had hair when this project started. So they're doing a great job, and thank you for everything they're doing this day in, day out. Hope that answers your question, Councilman Rowland.
Yeah, the only thing that I guess I would like to consider, maybe from the financial side of things, is what extra funds would do to potentially our assigned fund balance at the end of the year. So that's all.
I would tell you that we are not going to pay our designer more for mistakes they're making, if that makes sense.
I'm
So
sorry, can you?
We're not going to pay our designer more for mistakes that they are making. So there was a contract amount, so we're not going to pay them for mistakes they're making by not listening to us. Hope that makes sense.
Thank you.
So one other question, comment on the removal of our excess dirt. Where are we at on that?
Great question, Mr. Mayor. One that we talk about all the time. So we were able to have, I had a meeting Monday morning with all the players because there was a claim that our roadway project shut down the operation. Not the case. What really shut down the operation was the giant trench that the high school put across Renton to put a storm drain in and additional water line. In addition to the curb that we put in. So we were kind of the third tier on that. So we got everybody out there, and ultimately what's going to happen, it'll pick back up on Monday, and it'll go full speed for 3 to 4 weeks.
Hopefully we actually get it, more than a day or two of doing it, because so far it looks like it started and done for a day and then stopped and then started and then.
Yeah,
maybe
our
not started again.
Hayden mentioned that for a couple of days, they only saw about 10 trucks a day. I will say that the supplier that is taking that, the information we do have, it doesn't appear that there's a very specific home for the dirt. It's almost as if we get the feeling that as they sell it to the various end users, they're bringing the trucks back. Now, their agreement with Auto Free, from my understanding, is that doesn't matter. You have to get this out of here by this amount of time for this dollar amount. And they're turning the screws on them. And so by Monday, it should be full bore, and we should see truck after truck after truck after truck until it's gone in 3 to 4 weeks.
That would be good, because I was up there earlier this week and I didn't see anything.
Right, and then all week it's been the issue. So from essentially, I don't know, 50 feet, 25 to 50 feet south side of the library, all the way to almost about the corner of the north side of the Agua Fria school, there was an open trench. And that was for the storm drain pipe that Agua Fria designed to go from the north side of Renton. And so it was bad time because that should have been done by the 3rd, and they didn't start until about the 3rd. And so that open trench stopped the Britton traffic dead. And that was the route. So just come in his library and come out. So that wasn't articulated to the stockpile truck company. And so when they came out to evaluate one day, there's just open trenches and snow net everywhere. And they said, we're not doing this.
All right. Well, hopefully we get it back on speed, because it's obvious that that's going to stop everything if it doesn't eventually get out of there. It's a huge amount of dirt.
Yes, everybody wants to see Mount Approach disappear.
I have one more question.
Yes.
I saw a truck dumping dirt on that empty lot over just in between the church and, do you know what I'm talking about? That empty lot? Do you know what that was? Those
Halls in there?
Yeah.
So that's where our millings are going for the pavement management.
Okay.
So we're going to use that to spread at various places. That's it.
I
Some
was
of that'll
like,
go to Sal Lodge.
Yeah, it's not dirt.
no, okay.
Okay, thank you. Next report is from Mr. Proch. He's gonna talk about his mountain and some other projects.
Thank you. Special projects update. I'd like to thank Keith as CIP and special projects somewhat blend together. Happy to answer any additional questions about Litchfield Square, all the projects at Loma or the Thomas. Oh, and I have photos. And as soon as I take these photos, they're updated as far as that it's done, that they're done with painting on the ephes on 3 sides. This is a look at the interior, but there's more interior walls already at this point of the library. This is the main entry again. This was taken late last week, so already outdated as they finish up the main facade as you're looking east. Here's the administration building of the school. That one's nearly ready for ephes. The main entry and the tower feature all the good stuff now. The architectural features are going on these buildings. That's the main entry into the theater. Here's the first layers of that retaining wall. You can see bandstand is up beyond that. And then this is the big boy at the end, on the far west end. You can see the orchards down there at the Sun Health campus. You can see the size of that employee versus the size of that wall, as that will hold back everything from falling onto the Sun Health residents. And here we are on the very far west end again, just looking back towards the theater and the coffee shop on that second floor. A little bit closer as far as that examination up on the second floor, coffee shop above the theater. Here's me and a fellow as I'm waxed poetic into the audience chamber from the stage, and we'll stop there. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Proch? Just Councilman James.
Just a comment, the owner of Thomas wanted to just express, it's been a long road, and he just really wanted to express, as we're, balls on the 2-yard line at this point in time, how in particular, how much he enjoys working with you, and how amiable, or how the relationship. So it's nice to see how that relationship's evolved, and so just wanted to say, well done.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, no other questions? Thank you for your report. All right, we have magistrate court report is in your packet. If you have any questions on that, get them to the city manager. Brings us to our consent agenda, items 7A through A through I. Is there any member of council that wishes to take any item off of the consent agenda?
I would ask so that you would move item D to business, sir.
Which one?
Item D.
All right. Anything else?
G, please.
I'm sorry?
G.
G, okay. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda of items A through I with the exception of D and G? So moved. For second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion is adopted. So item number D, you want to have?
Yes, sir. Mayor and council, the reason I'd asked to pull that one is because we just got a hard quote on this one. And the quote that we'd like to go with is 1 million. It's actually 1,068,000. But we'd ask, it's 1,068,000.
68. Okay.
So we would ask you to exceed, not to exceed 1,070,000. So the reason I pulled that, of course, the motion would have said 1 million, so we didn't want to have to bring it back for ratification.
All right.
So we'd ask the motion be again for 1,070,000, not 1 million. Again, that's for the Missouri Litchfield signal.
All right. So is there a motion to approve a cooperative purchase contract to construct the traffic signal at Litchfield, Missouri, in an amount not to exceed $1,070,000?
So moved.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion is adopted. Now item G. You had a question about item G, Councilman Allen?
Yes, but I also think that perhaps it could be answered after we handle our executive session regarding Colliers.
Okay.
I think it's more of a process.
All right. So you want to postpone discussion of that until after executive session?
Yes.
Okay, we'll take it out of order and we will come back to that after we do the executive session. Next item of business is under item 8A, adoption of resolution for the dissolution of the Litchfield Square CFD. Councilman Williams, man,
Yes, sir.
City Manager Williams.
I'll take any of the above. Mayor and council, this is the formal council action to dissolve the CFD. So earlier you voted to do it in the actual CFD board. You are the CFD board. So you made that motion earlier, but the city itself, the city council has to approve this action also if you would like to do that. I would like to point out the CFD attorney was here earlier, but he came after me, and so I sent him home. I saw no reason for him to stay, but he was here. But again, this action would formally eliminate the CFD if approved.
Motion to adopt.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Approval of city prosecutor rate increase. Mr. City Manager.
Mr. Vice Mayor, would you like to recuse yourself on this one, sir?
Yes, I would declare a conflict and then I'll be sitting here quietly.
Thank you, sir. Mayor and council, this is a rate increase for the city prosecutor services. So it's a rate increase to $195 per hour. I would like to tell you this rate has not been increased since 2016. And we appreciate this rate, even with the change, it's still a good deal, even with the increase, and we appreciate that and recommend approval.
Is there a motion to approve changing the hourly rate of our city prosecutor to a rate of $195 per hour?
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second?
Well, I'll second.
Okay, second. All right. Is there further discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask what the budget impact would be for the difference in the rate.
Are you asking me or Matthew?
I'm asking somebody who might be able to answer the question. Is it significant? Like, is it?
There will be an increase. I have planned for that increase.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I don't have a specific.
I'm sorry.
number,
to
but
ask
we
you
have
a
planned for
specific
it.
number.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay.
So the ayes have it, wouldn't show that Mr. Vice Mayor abstained.
Thank you. And thank you, Faithful Law, for their service.
Next item is from the city manager concerning adoption resolution 26603 on Litchfield Square Lot 3.
Thank you. Mayor and council, this is the resolution and the DA for lot 3. This is, of course, the Acamazo project. So when we say lot 3, it used to be lot 3 and lot 4. It's now being combined into lot 3, so they're together. So just to clarify that. I will say this item came to you late. I didn't get it back till 5:30 yesterday. Of course, you got the email from me today about this. The Acamazo did send us some additional documents, which were bank reaffirmation documents, just saying that the agreement would still stand. The city attorney has reviewed those. Those documents are just fine. I will say these DAs are very similar between Rodolfo and Acamazo. There's a few differences there. One key difference on Acamazo's document is that Rodolfo was paying cash, where Acamazo had asked to finance the difference. He would like to finance the $279,000 through the city. Those terms are in the DA. It would be at 20 years at 4.5% interest. So those are terms that we came up with. We offered him 20 or 25-year terms. Again, that is in the DA. And where the $279,000 comes from is, of course, they already own the land. The $279 is the difference of $2.50 per square foot. When you do 250 times the square footage they bought, there's where your $279 comes from. Makes sense. Okay.
It is the value of the obligation for the CFD.
That's correct. Really right. Also, something I thought you might find interesting was that the timeline. So his DA required 18 months for completion. 18 months would be October of 26. This project actually broke ground April 14th of 25. So just a matter of interest. Welcome any questions if there are any. Again, I understand you had short review time. I did ask him if he was okay with you guys bumping this to May if you would like to. He would be okay with that if that's something you feel like you need to do. Welcome any questions if you have any.
Questions from council?
Are there any material changes other than just this piece that you've explained here?
As far as from the previous DA? Yes, ma'am. A big difference would be on parking. So in the previous DA, and when that DA was written, it was with Hearth. It said that the shortfall of parking that they had, which I think was 113 spots, that if their customers didn't pay for those spots, that they would be responsible for 75% of those costs. That's a big number, right? So that is no longer in this agreement. And the reason why is it wasn't any of the other DAs, and they should be the same across the board for those kind of things. You'll see later tonight, we're going to recommend a first reading of a change on parking code in relation to Litchfield Square. Mr. Proch will discuss that, so you'll see that. But that is a big change from the previous DA, is that. They are still short on parking, but they're no longer liable to pay for 75% of those sort of things. Rather, it leaves language in the DA that the city could pay for parking through various means, such as sales tax, special fees, that kind of thing. Okay, and again, it makes the DAs much more similar. That's a key point.
That is something that aligns with Rodolfo's DA.
Yes, this changed us. They're very similar now. Before they were different in this way.
I mean, I will admit that I did not have a chance to review it, so I'm a little uncomfortable just with the content of it.
If the council's uncomfortable doing it now, we can postpone it.
Of course we can.
It's up to council.
We've got the same agreement coming up again, don't you?
Yeah. It's the same agreement with Rodolfo.
I've looked at it. I don't have a problem with it. I would make a motion to approve it, but subject to the city attorney approving it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the city attorney's seen it, so.
He wrote it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it has been approved by the city attorney, and I also think it's fine, but.
To the vice mayor's question, the city attorney is on the call. Do you guys have any questions for him on these documents?
My motion stands just with his approval, just to have it on the record.
All right, is there a second for the motion?
Second.
Okay, so it was seconded by Councilman Clare. Is there any further discussion on the motion to adopt the resolution which would replat lots 3 and 4 and allow execution of the revised development agreement with Heritage Partners? Is there any further discussion on that motion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
You can't really abstain just by our rules, because you don't have a conflict, so.
Her abstention goes with the majority, does it not, under our rules?
I think so, yeah.
That's correct, it does.
So do you understand, by abstaining, you join the majority?
That's fine. I just
Okay.
want it on the record that I did not have time to review it, and so
That's fine.
that's it.
All right. So I'm not sure, I think, we've heard the ayes, are there any nays?
I am, nay. I want to wait till next month, but it sounds like I'm getting outvoted.
All right. So the vote then, do we have a vote from the Zoom calls? Councilman Clare, I want to make sure we have your vote, and Councilman Brainerd Watson.
I'm an aye.
Councilman Clare? It's hard to hear. He obviously seconded the motion.
Right.
Without Councilman Clare, it'd be 5-1, so it still passes either way.
He's giving a thumbs up.
What's that?
There's a
Chat, he put a thumbs up.
Oh, thumbs up. All right, so the motion passes 6-1. All right, next item of business is from the city manager in resolution 26-604, which is again replatting Litchfield Square parcels 1 and 2 into one parcel and authorizing the execution of the revised and restated development agreement with Rodolfo Family Properties LLC. Is there anything different between the last development agreement we just approved and the one with Rodolfo?
Just a few small things, sir. They're very, very similar documents. So a few things that stand out is that one, so again, he's paying $250 per foot. Again, as the mayor said, for the CFD going away. That equates to $152,000 and some change. He is paying this in cash. He's not looking to finance it. That is a key difference from the Akamozo agreement. Also, this agreement allows for 24 months to complete construction, where Akamozo had 18. The reason why was because there was a lot of years there, and I'll leave it at that. But that's why it was 18 months versus 24. Okay. And the public infrastructure is completed. Also, I thought you might want to know on his timeline. So he has agreed to the timeline that I put in there, that he will pull permits by 5/1/26. Just so you know, the permits have not been pulled yet, not because of staff delays, because there keeps being some design changes on an external patio by the developer, and that's okay. But we're not holding that up. And also, the DA requires that they break ground by June 1 of 26. Obviously, that's about 45 days away. Just to clarify, groundbreaking, if you're doing grading at risk, that would qualify for groundbreaking. And coming back to that risk, the reason why he's looking to do at-risk grading is because they don't have permits yet because of the patio. So that's okay, right? So anyway, just to clarify that. Any questions on the Rodolfo DA?
Questions, Councilman Allen?
I just had one quick question. In the DA, it says, it mentions condos in Rodolfo's DA. Is there a possibility that he has condos?
No, ma'am, not at this time. What that's about is that we've written language into these DAs because condos have private parking. So that in the future, all of the Litchfield Square parking is public parking. But like, for example, on Mr. Pointer's DA, if it comes forward, he is going to build the parking on Wigwam Boulevard to exchange for that, because those condo spaces are private spaces, not public spaces. So we're putting that language in other DAs so it carries forward. That goes along with the condo, but no, ma'am, he's not in the plan for any condos at this time.
Okay.
Any other questions about the either replatting or the revisions to the development agreement? Okay. So is there a motion to authorize the replanting of parcels 1 and 2 and execution of the revised and restated development agreement with Rodolfo Family Properties?
So moved.
A motion by Councilman Clare. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, as just stated, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye. Abstain.
Okay, do we get votes off of the Zoom calls? Councilman Clare and Councilwoman Brainerd Watson?
Brainerd's an aye.
Councilman Clare?
Aye.
Okay. Is there anyone who desires to vote nay? Motion carries then 6-0 with one conflict abstention. Next item is potential action on ordinance 26-298 for the zoning code text amendment related to accessory structures. Mr. Proch.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, I do not wish to slow down the proceedings of this evening. However, there was a very long discussion with the Planning and Zoning Commission last night I need to keep you aware of. That is directly related to the introduction item tonight, item 8E, regarding accessory structures. So yes, our request for you this evening is the introduction ordinance, not an adoption of any sort of change, but this goes in line with our conversations in January and February about sheds and how we're handling sheds and what the best approach was to not necessarily turn over the apple cart and make radical changes, but try to address specific situations that could address a majority of the concerns. If you recall, in those conversations, I had 6 options here I'm presenting on the screen as far as the conversations I have heard from Planning and Zoning Commission, conversations we've been hearing from residents, and commission tailored and orchestrated these ideas that were presented before you regarding what is considered a screened structure. And this is the one that council direction was to address and say that a screened structure is up to 8 feet in height instead of the height of the wall. Commission, and I had a resident also ask about utilizing lot coverage instead of the 500 square foot max on accessory structures in the rear yard. We do have residents that have a 2,000 square foot backyard and, much larger spaces, but they're still restricted at 500. The street side requirement, right now, we don't allow sheds on the street side because we feel as though they're unsightly. So instead we burden their neighbors on the interior side with those sorts of sheds. Bird Lane, Old Litchfield, Acacia, Oro Vista essentially do not permit any sort of accessory structures because of the new fencing. The current IRC code allows permanent exemptions for up to 200 square feet. We talked about going from a shed to a garage, essentially. That's a big change, so we didn't move that one forward. And then the design review exemption could match that IRC change. I just refreshed the memory because the supported amendment that we had discussed were two very specific changes regarding what a screened accessory structure is, meaning up to 8 feet in height, and that if it's 120 square feet or less and 8 feet in height or less, then it has that setback exemption per se. Now, we reviewed all of those 534 houses, and this does address a large majority of this. I tell you all this to tell you that last night at the Planning and Zoning Commission, there was a feeling of distraught of all of the other changes and suggestions they had made were not being brought forward, to the point where after about an hour discussion, instead of making a motion of recommendation to City Council tonight, they instead tabled the item. I was essentially caught off guard by this. Now, because tonight is an introduction, the recommendation does not need to be in place. You can still act on the introduction to this specific change. And in May, I would bring back to Planning and Zoning Commission the same council direction for these changes, and they will need to make a recommendation at that time. Even if their recommendation is denial of this change, you can still override that decision in May with the adoption of the ordinance to change this text. And I'd be happy to answer any questions about the past week for me.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
What did planning and zoning want? What was the recommendation?
Vice Mayor, the recommendation of Planning and Zoning Commission was to address all 6 of these items, which were presented to you, I think, back in February, as far as more of a wholesale change of not only just the screening situation, but also to utilize lot coverage instead of a 500 square foot maximum, to also not be as concerned with street side sheds because they didn't impact a neighbor. We're basically saying that it has to impact a neighbor by saying it has to be on the interior side, not the street side. And then we had a commissioner last night mention that we're having this new trend, I guess, of the pergolas with the entertainment wall. And those sorts of houses are very attractive. But basically, by our code today, Bird, Old Litchfield, Oro Vista, Acacia can't have them because they have the view fence in the side yards. So all of these points were points that they were passionate about and wanted to address more holistically. And so they were hopeful that all of this conversation was heard and determined that all of these changes could be made instead of council's direction to me last month, which was isolated to this situation.
Did they want more time to analyze and debate and try and figure out a resolution to this? Or was their recommendation final?
We had a very lengthy discussion in November ahead of my council presentations, the 2 presentations I had, a work study session about all of this sort of situation. So they weren't as concerned with remediation of isolated complaints. Their concern was essentially a modernization of all of these aspects, even if no one's complaining about these sorts of situations.
And can you go back a couple of pages? 3 and 5. 2 and 5. Maximum utilized lot coverage maximum instead of 500 square foot limits, and then go to number 5. 120 square feet. How do those work together?
Okay, so two different things here. So in for today's code, an accessory structure can only be in the rear yard. You have a size limitation that is as follows: 500 square feet or 25% of your rear yard, whichever is less. They said for lots that are very large, that 500 almost looks like a postage stamp on an envelope as far as how much can be utilized. I have a resident that has a tennis court in their backyard, and they don't want the tennis court anymore. They see multi-generational living as an option, but they were thinking about something that was like 1,000 or 1,100 square feet for their parents, essentially. Unfortunately, at 500 square feet, you're looking at a one-bedroom kitchenette. Not to say that their isolated instance should dictate code changes, but that is an example of how number 2 is addressed. For number 5, our code allows anyone to go buy a shed at a big box store. If it's 120 square feet or less and 6 feet in height or less, there's nothing you need to do with us. You don't have design review, you don't have setbacks, you don't have a building permit. The IRC, International Residential Code, has updated their language to now be 200 square feet. I gave the example of a 10 by 12 shed is one thing, but a 10 by 20 single car garage is a much different scale. IRC allows up to 200. We don't. We're still at 120. And that, again, is not something anyone has complained about or asked about, but it is something that is able to be modernized, I guess you could say, in our zoning code.
Thank you. Yeah. You know, I've always been concerned about stepping on the toes of commissioners that we appoint. It sounds like with what we've got before us is stepping on toes.
I don't want to get into it. He said, she said, and I don't want to represent them because I do my best to represent your words back to them last night, and now their words to you tonight. So I think the easiest way for me to restate it is they see more opportunities for more changes than the one that's being addressed for council direction.
So there's no rush on this. And if this was delayed, it would give us a chance to watch the P&Z minutes that are posted on YouTube. I think I saw them posted already when I was going down through them today. But I didn't have a chance to read them. I did get a chance to read this stuff today.
Yes, the first day of the month was a Wednesday, so it's a very rare situation that P&Z and city council are back-to-back nights.
Yeah.
And again, Vice Mayor, just to finish the thought, it's an introduction tonight. This does not mean that the change being made is finalized or formalized or adopted. So I still need to have the same conversation once more with Planning and Zoning Commission next month for a recommendation, again, ahead of any sort of adoption.
An introduction of this is still viewed by
This,
them probably as a splat.
we would be introducing something that could be a long ways away from what we really might want to pass. I'm not sure that makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Because there's not an emergency. I mean, we've been dealing with this issue, for 8 months, 9 months.
Yes, Mayor, and it kept our intern very busy as she had to find every single accessory structure in the city.
Well, I mean, it was a big job to find them. That's why I said, now we know we've got a mess. This isn't going to fix the mess necessarily.
Mayor, I don't want to misrepresent their intentions. This particular change does fix large majority of the situations. And now with Engage LP available in Play Store or the App Store, there are excited residents that are driving every day and have submitted 15 new cases this week on sheds. So we are happy to address things.
This isn't one resident, is it?
It's an anonymous resident. We don't know who it is.
Yes.
What does it say?
So again, we can take whatever action P and Z and city council advise me to do, we can still move forward with this, which again clarifies and helps a large majority of people.
This P and Z, P and Z wants 5 changes, let's just say, and 8
Yes.
changes, whatever the number is.
Yes.
This is 1 change out of those 8 changes.
Yes.
Do they oppose the change that we're gonna make to help resolve some of these issues with sheds? Do they oppose that change?
Thank you for the question. That helps clarify my words to you. They are not opposed to this change.
They just want more change.
That's correct.
So if they're not opposed to this change, and this change will help us deal with these 15 complaints every week, then it would make sense to introduce this change. But with the communication specifically back to P and Z, that we need a report from them that separates this change from what they also want, all the other things we want. Make it 2 things. And we'll do another ordinance to deal with the ones that they will also want to change, but with a separate report on what the changes are and why they're, in the best interest of our residents.
Wonderful. I can do that. I mentioned to them last night, and I'll plug it again tonight. At some point, when the Hilltop and Downtown and Monument Point are done, I will rewrite this entire code. I will look for a grouping of people from P and Z, RPG, City Council that would like to be on a group, kind of like the Board of Freeholders, and we'll look at everything.
If it's extensive changes, it makes sense to do something like that rather than just have P and Z deciding it and not having that kind of input.
So the minute, you're gonna tell P and Z and the minutes are gonna show that these 3 items we believe are what P and Z want, and that we are way open to.
We're open to considering them once they go through a process to make.
To go through all the rest that they want,
Right.
yeah, once they go through a process.
Yeah.
And we're asking P and Z to please do that.
Correct.
Yep.
And is that part of it, then I would make the motion to adopt. Introduce with that language included.
The city clerk, do you understand what he's saying? So we'll make a motion to introduce this ordinance with the understanding that it is going to change one thing in city code that we need to change because of the unusual numbers of complaints we've had from citizens over these sheds. And at the same, but we're also going to encourage P and Z to properly vet all of the other changes they want in this area so that they can bring back a second ordinance that will deal with those items.
Okay.
That makes sense? All right, so I think that's what the motion is. Is there a second?
Second.
So we got a second from Councilman Clare?
Yes, sir.
Point of discussion.
Yes.
Just want to point out that probably 95% of the prefab sheds sold at Home Depot do not qualify. So most are 8 feet and above, with the exception of the base model. So I went through Home Depot and Lowe's. So unless you have like the base model tough shed, everything is above 8 feet. So most of the shed, I don't know what the sheds look like, they're in people's backyards, but so this 8-foot limit that we're setting is basically limiting, it would be essentially the smallest prefab shed you can buy, which I think is.
What did you find as the height? What were they typically?
I mean, they range. I mean, most of the ones that are the kind of the standard looking shed, with the exception of the smaller models, are like 8'5", 8'4". You add a 3-inch slab foundation, which most of them are probably going to put, even you're going to take, I think the base model is 7'9". So if you put a 3-inch slab underneath it, you're at 8 feet. So the sheds, I mean, there's a lot that would qualify, but the kind of the bigger sheds that you're going to find at Home Depot that people are going to want to put in their backyards, most do not.
So that should be something he brings back to us at the next meeting when we consider adopting this, if we have to tweak that 8 foot.
Well, I would think so, yes. And I mean, the problem is that you start getting above 8 feet and then you're talking about impacts on the other neighbors.
Yeah. But I mean, if he comes back and finds out that the typical one should be 8'3", that's gonna take care of half of it. Then maybe we take the 8 foot and change it to 8'3".
If it's a few,
so we don't have a problem of some sort.
The trouble is, are we really ready? Do we know enough to be even ready to introduce this if we don't understand the height, impacts of the height? Maybe that's maybe that's the bottom line, that we're not ready to introduce that. You want to take your motion back? Draw your motion.
Sure, that's what the majority wants.
Well, that's, I mean, I think
Don't we vote?
I want to introduce something if we have something that we're not going to be negatively impacting the residents. And it fixes this problem that we have, because it is a serious problem with a particular neighbor who's literally crazy about, filing these complaints.
And can we kick that 8 foot, 8'3", 8'6" back to P and Z also to figure that out?
Sure.
Okay, I withdraw the motion.
All right, Councilman Claire, I think you seconded. Will you accept withdrawing the motion introduced?
Yes, sir.
I think he said yes.
He did.
So instead, we're going to have a motion to table this and send it back to P and Z to further study this solution to the problem. And separate, I would like to see them separate solving this problem from fixing everything else they want to fix. Do it in 2 steps.
Can do.
Because solving the problem should not take as much vetting as the second step.
You want to expedite solving the problem.
Right, I want to solve the problem for the first step.
Thank you.
All right. So is there a motion to table this with the direction to go back to P and Z to separate the issues, get the issue resolved on the first, solving these complaints we're getting, and doing the second step after further vetting?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, so we take it back to P and Z with that direction. Next item.
It's me again.
I'm just trying to, that was E, so this is F then. So discussion of ordinance 26-299, which is a zoning code text amendment related to violations, procedures, and basically parking requirements.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. We're calling this a spring cleaning. It's ordinance 26-299. 2 things are very rudimentary changes. One is worthy of a discussion, and I don't mean to keep you so late, but we do need to talk it through a little bit.
No, this actually is a very important change, so you need to explain it.
Thank you. Spoilers a little bit. We'll get there in just a second. So the first change that's being proposed as part of this cleanup is in section 8, that's our violations section. What we're looking to do is there's just a little bit too much vague information. Now that we have the City of Avondale Municipal Court basically processing this over there, there's a section of their code we wanted to just pick up and put into our code to make sure that there is no misinterpretation of some situations. I'm not going to read this for you, but essentially what it states is there are fines and violations that are a civil violation when you, break a law essentially in the zoning code, not a misdemeanor, not go to jail because your shed is too close to the wall. I digress. What we're adding is language that is very specific for subsections. Like the group home subsection does have a class 1 misdemeanor for violations of the group home subsection within section 31. We had an instance earlier last year where at the time the judge wasn't clear as far as is it misdemeanor or civil violation, because in their interpretation at the time, every subsection would require that clarification. Is it civil? Is it misdemeanor? Civil? Is it misdemeanor? What this essentially is this is language just plucked out of the City of Avondale City Code that says, if unstated, it is a civil violation, not a misdemeanor. So again, it's chunky language, just in the very odd chance we do take them to the court. In the past 5 years, I think we've taken 3 code matters to the court systems. So again, just a little bit of cleanup to work well with Avondale, and I'd be happy to answer any questions about this particular change.
Any questions?
Yes.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Has somebody gone through the code and looked to see if every other violation is labeled criminal or civil?
So Vice Mayor, I started this conversation with Joe and the city prosecutor in 2024 as far as how this all came to be. And I apologize for the delay, but Hilltop got in the way of getting this taken care of earlier last year. So this language is, I should restate, it was Joe's interpretation, he's on the phone, and if I misspeak, he can chime in, that it was clear and obvious that any violation of the zoning code was a civil matter based on existing language. That group homes was the only instance where subsection specifically called out a misdemeanor. Even though it was clear to him and clear to our prosecutor, the judge still threw it out because this language wasn't there. We think it's redundant to have in some ways this language that basically states what has already been stated. But again, it's just plucked from the city of Avondale's code so that there isn't any opportunity to misinterpret.
And this is the current magistrate city, the current city judge.
I'm sorry. What had happened when it was thrown out was our judge at the time.
Judge Ring.
Thank you, yes.
And when you say whenever in this code, you're referring to the zoning code only and not the entire city code?
That's correct, because my document is independent of city code, which is independent of the charter, which is independent of general plan. So I only speak unto myself.
The code you're referring to zoning code.
That's correct.
Wait a minute, it says, or in any ordinance of the city.
Again, just speaking unto myself. If there's any sort of nuance that Joe wants to change, we'll certainly work through that and bring it back before you.
So this amendment's going to be written only in the zoning code. Looks like it's not entirely clear to me that the clarification isn't clear.
You know, the problem is if it's actually being requested, this is a request, a requirement of the city court, is what you're saying. Is that correct or not? Is that overstating it? It was thrown out from the one time we tried to use it, it was thrown out because it's not happening.
Yes.
This language comes from Avondale language, covering the same issue in their zoning code.
It's in their city code, not their zoning code. Yes. Just a point of clarification there. I don't misspeak.
It's in their city code.
Right, because and you don't quote me, but it's on the minutes. I believe their zoning code is a chapter of city code. I can't remember offhand.
Isn't ours also?
No, I am completely Miss Independent. I'm outside of the city code. So I have my own administration, my own definitions, my own procedures.
So when this says, whenever in this code, in any ordinance of the city, should that not say whenever in this zoning code or in the zoning ordinance of the city?
I'm not the attorney. So
it would not be an error to have said that. It might eliminate some misunderstanding.
Certainly, yes.
If you want to have it clarified, that's fine, but because it is in the zoning code, it only applies to the zoning code. It would not apply to the rest of the city code or the city charter.
But Joe, it says, or in any ordinance of the city.
Yes, there are ordinances of the city that are adopted in the zoning code. So it references ordinances. So again, because it is in the zoning code, it would only apply to those issues within the zoning code. You couldn't have a provision in the zoning code that would apply to the city code.
Yeah, and the simpler, rather than argue about it, we'll just put the word zoning in both of those places so it's clear.
That would be.
We'll accept that. That would have stopped, that would eliminate that issue. So the wording would be modified by inserting the word zoning twice.
Okay.
Zoning code and zoning ordinances.
Unless Joe looks at it as a problem, he can bring it back to us at the adoption.
Right. So with that, is there a motion to introduce the language as amended?
Mayor, I'm sorry. There's three subject matters of this.
Okay.
Spring cleanup. I'm going to go out of order to the simpler one before we get to that. Again, this is another one of things like sheds that a few years ago, P&Z Commission and Council went through as far as RVs. and specifically the screening of non-principal uses in section 31 of the zoning code, excuse me. As of today, this is all existing language that was vetted and clarified and added and changed and modified about 2 years ago, right before I got here, as far as how to handle RVs in backyards. There is one word that we are adding in this. This is a hocus pocus test. The word living, we are proposing to add between the fence or height wall not to exceed 6 feet.
And that's fine.
And
we were using, we wanted living landscape to be able to be
Yes.
used as a screen, and that's fine.
we have a few people that have leaf nets.
Yeah, that's
thrown
fine.
over their RVs, and although we think it would hold up in court without the word living, again, we're adding the word living.
So that's the second, that we're modifying that, and then you're modifying parking.
Yes, so thank you. So we are proposing a change to 27C, the city center, Litchfield Square, parking regulations, because we have, Akamasu can speak to this sort of situation when he was getting funding. By the books, all projects within Litchfield Square are deficient in parking intentionally. We have developed the on-street parking network. We have plans for parking garage as needed. However, if you went the old school way of thinking, okay, he has 4 restaurants, this much kitchen space, this much dining space, this much outdoor dining space, he has an office, but if the office is closed at 5 and the restaurant doesn't open up till 5:30, then they have a shared parking agreement. It's a lot of math. And what it does is it gets the banks nervous because essentially it is grandfathered. It is a legal non-conforming use of land because there is not sufficient parking within their private property to address all of those uses. We think that's, we don't want to create a situation like this again. So this is very large amount of text that Joe and I worked through, and I'll read it to you as follows. City center shall have no minimum off-street parking requirements. End of sentence, no, just kidding. Off-street parking shall be installed in all unencumbered areas of site defined as areas not necessary for buildings, loading, recycling, trash, fire lanes, emergency access, or other code required site improvements. Essentially, if someone came in and wanted to develop 5, 6, and 7 between Papa Falls and the church, they'll need a fire lane for sure. They'll need ladder access for a 3-story building, but we do not want them to devote large areas to surface parking. If they came in and say, I have 80,000 square foot 3-story building, I'd say, okay, the math tells me you need 300 parking stalls. Where are you gonna put? It's not our intention to burden this developable land, our downtown, with surface parking in that situation. I state further, with Joe's blessing on this one, parking provided pursuant to section shall comply with applicable design and operational standards of section 29. It's 9 feet, it's 20 feet. That's what that is essentially stating. And the big thing, the associated development agreements for the properties. As Matthew has illustrated, our new improved DAs 2.0 have language that talk to the deficiencies. It is not our intention to use that contract as a get out of jail for the code requirements. We'd rather fix the code and use the DA to support this change to code. I'd be happy to answer any questions on this.
One thing I would tell you on this is that, for example, 567, that's the parcel on Old Litchfield Road. This would make it more possible to build a building that was to the full plate, that was the 0 lot line by doing this, right? This also allows you, I think this removes one more hurdle or one more roadblock, however you want to say it, from development of Litchfield Square. This may very well result in a problem that you want to have, and then it may force more parking into a parking garage. However, if we're having that problem, if it's because these developers are building these parcels out to full lot line, what does that mean? It means more retail development. It means more tax dollars for the city. It's not a bad problem to have, right? So I think that's important to understand. Certainly on 567, they could build an internal garage. There's ways they could do that. But I think this is a good thing to do. Again, it's not saying they don't have parking, but in all unencumbered areas, okay? But again, I think this is a good change. It also eliminates the problem of a gifting clause. Because as Randy said, we know that all the parcels are going to be deficient on parking, and that gets tenuous when you get into a situation where they're short 40 spaces, 50 spaces, 100 spaces. That can quickly become a gifting clause issue. This takes care of that issue. Joe, would you like anything I missed on that?
Nope, I think you guys covered it all. And, you know, again, we don't need to have the specific parking requirements in the code because all of the lots in Litchfield Square are going to have development agreements that are going to be perpetual and run with the land. So all of those issues would be able to be addressed on a case-by-case basis through the development agreements.
Like for example, in that Camazo document, he had to put parking on the Scout Lodge parking lot. That still stands until there was a garage there one day. It's in the Pointer development, as we said earlier, in the Pointer DA about parking on Wigwam Boulevard because of condos. Those things would still apply. The language still carries.
Yes.
I think the only thing I'm concerned about is that the public may view this as a way to, like, by eliminating the need for off-street parking or that we are backdooring our way into a parking garage that I'm not sure people are necessarily enthusiastic about. So that's the only thing that I would just want to think about.
I can speak to it at least from my point of view. I don't particularly want a parking garage, so it will be. It's not that a parking garage might not be needed and it might be the best solution, but it's not my preferred solution. I don't see that as a preferred path. These parking calculations are to some extent arbitrary calculations. If you look in a lot of places, these buildings have more parking lot than they really need. On the other hand, what this does is give the flexibility to work in every development agreement to find the appropriate parking solution for that development. If you've been over to Goodyear Square, one of the things that becomes really quickly obvious is they have less parking lot parking than what they need for almost every building over there. And it's very frustrating because the parking garage is pretty far away. So there is the option of going to park in the parking garage, but it's a big hike. And a lot of people don't like that. It's causing them to look at things like having to have valet park because people want to come up to where they're going and leave their car. You leave in a parking lot that's close or leave it with a valet, but the parking garage solution isn't necessarily a 100% solution. And I don't think it is for us either. It may be a required solution. I don't know. But I think what this does is it gives the council flexibility as we negotiate these DAs to get an appropriate amount of parking for each of these buildings that are going up, within the next 3 or 4 parcels.
I think that's key. What the mayor says on the DA point. DAs, of course, are subject to negotiation between the parties. Both sides have to agree to it, and if you don't, they don't get approved, right? And certainly, when you guys will have these projects, as Joe said, all the Litchfield Square parcels will have DAs, and we would have to work those things out in terms that both parties agree to. I think that's key. Is that this removes the roadblock, but again, you can do it through the DA, and you would.
Yeah, the lot between the Papa Paul and the church, it's almost 90,000 square feet that you could build on. And if you had a 3-story building, it's pretty easy to picture that 3-story building having significant amount of parking in a parking garage inside that building. Probably more parking than what they would need just for the building use. So that it actually would supply parking for other uses in the square. This just allows that to happen. It allows that, allows us to work with, allows the city to work with the developers on that parcel and the other parcels to get the best optimum amount of parking for that particular building and also for the square as a whole. there's a number of different features that go into this question of whether you're gonna need a parking garage, but if the goal is not to have a parking garage, but to simply have a parking lot, an excess and overflow parking lot, if that ends up being the goal, that gives the staff a lot of room to negotiate through DAs to make that happen.
But this also, like, if a developer were to come in, for instance, they wouldn't necessarily have to provide any parking. Like right?
Well, we also don't have to agree to the DA. I mean, that's the whole purpose. It's a negotiation. So is the amount of parking that's been negotiated appropriate for the use that's going to actually happen in that building? And what does that amount of parking, how does that impact the need for a parking garage? Or how does it impact other businesses around that business? You can look at Pointer. Pointer's property really probably has enough parking for itself. Probably isn't going to have a negative impact on anything. So, but it's entirely possible to negotiate that. But it also, you can look at, you look at Rodolfo. It's hard to say if Rodolfo has enough parking. I mean, in theory, he probably isn't. He's underparked. But I don't know that that's going to happen because we don't know the uses really that are going to actually be in that building. It gives us more flexibility than we have now, I think, because we don't have to worry about this issue of gifting.
What is the perimeter of the city center? Like, does it just include the park and the surrounding areas? Is it like through Papa Paul? Is it that entire?
Papa Paul's is not in the city center.
Okay.
It's the undeveloped parcels, man.
Just only those?
Right.
Right. And they're all underparked. Every business, that whole block, the historic businesses, they're underparked by our code. Tremendously underparked. And it still works, okay? But it works to some extent because we have overflow parking in that area between the church and Papa Paul's. But they're underparked. Probably more underparked than what you see cars in that overflow lot.
That's correct.
In other words, there's not as many cars in that lot as they are underparked if you did a parking calculation on that building, those buildings, that one building. The historic center is a group.
Councilmember Allen, to your point, I think we should note that we've been discussing development with Brian Antebrink. He owns the downtown buildings, and he would like to do some potential development in those areas. So we would, if we could do it, there would be a DA where it would bring that into Litchfield Square zoning, and this would take care of some hurdles for us as well for that project moving forward.
This change actually would make it easier for him to join Litchfield Square.
Yes, it would. Correct.
Because if he joins Litchfield Square today, and that change would trigger a review of his parking, and parking is a problem.
Right.
What about the church?
The church is underparked today. I would tell you if they ever build a new wing, they would have to add on more parking.
Why? So I want to make sure that we're treating everything fairly down there too.
Right. The church is not in Litchfield. Square.
Would they ever be brought into that square
You could, but I don't know why you would.
for parking?
And to be honest, I don't think legally they would need to build more parking. However, the times the church is most likely to be used to need parking is going to be most of your businesses aren't going to be open, if that makes sense. I think it's more of a theoretical problem than it is an actual use problem.
Churches are great in shopping centers that are underparked because they use the shopping center when nobody else is there.
That's right.
They're there on Wednesday nights, Sundays, some other off times.
And the church operates fine, even though it's underparked today. It operates fine. So the problem is that, is what we establish these rules that don't necessarily meet reality. Maybe there's 2 or 3 days a year where it's reality, but for the majority of the year, you don't need this much parking.
Make the same argument for the Wigwam Golf Course too. You have the 4 times a year when they have a massive golf tournament.
Wigwam is underparked. Wigwam is severely underparked.
Yes.
And sometimes it's a problem, but it's not a problem, it isn't a problem every day.
Most cities have an ordinance that says that you can look at, there's a requirement of so many parking spaces per 1,000 feet. but you can look at some of the types of uses that go into there at certain times. And you can, the planner has the ability to adjust, you know, as years go by and tenants turn over. I know when I've leased to churches, which have certain parking requirements, they, in a center, they don't really look at it that way. They look at what are their hours. And again, it goes back, they're there on Sunday mornings when none of the other commercial tenants are there, when the parking lot's empty. They can have the whole darn thing to themselves. It just works out fantastic. If you're the landlord, get the right mix of tenants. If it leads it to all churches, it would be a problem. If it gets it all Sunday morning, it's gonna be a disaster.
Okay, so the question is really, we want to introduce these text amendments with the change to the text amendment relating to the zoning code and the civil nature of penalties. So is there a motion to introduce the three changes to the text, these three text amendment changes: zoning code, parking, and screening of what do you call these RVs?
Non-principal use.
Non-principal uses.
Not my word.
Is there a motion to introduce this ordinance?
So
Okay, is there a second? Second. All right, is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of introducing these ordinance with the amended language on the zoning code, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anybody we got Brainerd Watson and Councilman Clare?
Aye.
Okay, we got aye, I think, from Councilman Clare. So that would have been, we have no vote from Brainerd Watson. Are there any nays?
She says A.
What's that?
Brainerd Watson says A in the.
Aye.
She said aye. All right,
Okay.
so it's introduced by a vote of 7-0. Okay, now it goes to, we come up with a need for executive session, which I believe we do need.
Yes, sir.
Is there a motion to move into executive session under item 9, B, C, D, and E?
need another sheet.
Is there a motion to go into executive session under item 9, B, C, D, and E?
I think.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion to go into executive session, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, we're gonna go into executive session. When we get finished with executive session, we still have one item of business to deal with,
They're both on here.
and we will vote on that item.
Would anyone care for water?
Yes.
I'd like one, Matthew.
Water, anything?
I'm good.
I'm sorry for
I could have had it better and was focused.
May have to go back to that.
Hopefully, we're gonna get all those crap behind us this summer. Have everything done in August, and our life will go back to
More normal.
normal. Maybe, but yeah.
Drink anything, Phyllis?
I'm good.
Ready to rock.
Keith, are you staying?
No, not.
He just wants food, eh?
You don't need to, Keith.
You didn't see me all day.
Yeah, you gotta go home. She can't stay.
That's okay. You want to see it? Do you pause it?
You just let me know when we're ready for the admonition.
Dessert. Yeah, that's dessert. Huh? Now it's dessert. Need some honey for him, so.
Open the door.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I guess open the door. And save this, save the number.
Yes.
Okay, this is item. G. Just trying to understand, it's 6G. It's the 6 that I couldn't, I needed to work backwards. I marked all these pages up. So item 6G
So I think
is
it's
the
7G.
Litchfield Road and Underpass Design and Review Contract.
So moved.
And this is a discussion and a possible action to approve a cooperative purchase contract to design and engineer the underpass in an amount not to exceed $200,000. It's been the motion's been made by Councilman James. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on this motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, all right, so the motion passes 6-1. That's the last item of business we have to deal with tonight, so the